you notice that your comments are repeating somebody else's comments. If you could just, try to shrink that down, maybe just say, I agree with so-and-so who was here before, just to keep things moving along, because there's a lot of people. So we hope to get everybody in. All right, so, that went. All right, so I'm gonna start with this sheet, and then we have front and back, and an overflow sheet. And Lily Tang Williams is the first person up.
Good morning.
Right.
I want to make sure, how many minutes do I have?
3.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
Time clock?
I don't have one to show you, but I'm gonna do it on my phone. So
Oh, okay.
I'll let you know. It should, if I do it correctly, it should be.
Yes. Okay, this is my first time here. There are many
Sure.
first times in New Hampshire. I am Lily Tang Williams. I live in Ware. I'm here to represent myself to support PragerU literacy, financial literacy program. I was confirmed, that's what we're talking about today, just the financial literacy videos as optional courses for our students. I watched most of it. Actually, I'm learning a lot because I was born in China, grew up there. I never had any financial education. When I come here with broken English, I had to learn financial knowledge in this country, how to open up bank account, how to deal with insurance, how to invest. So even though I come here with nothing, but after certain years of learning on my own, never from any schools, and starting the whole in this country, and now I live actually with the financial freedom. Become self-employed, have a 3 home business, and come to New Hampshire and live comfortably and have time to get involved in local communities. I think the financial literacy program will really help our kids to learn fundamentals of basics of money management, what is a student loan, and how do you choose student loans, and what does that mean for your financial responsibilities, so they don't just do not read the fine print when they take student loans, and how do you buy car insurance, how do you manage your books, what is the budget. If you watch all those videos, it's very, very helpful. And I will say, as an immigrant, as a minority, our kids come to this country starting with nothing, without English knowledge. It's really hard for them to learn all that American values and free market capitalism. How do they get ahead? It's by being educated with the financial knowledge, with the financial literacy, so they can make well-informed decisions about their life. I had to teach my kids who went to public schools in Colorado. They had no idea how to manage lots of things. As a mom, I had to teach them at home. It's good, they all are financially independent of my payroll. That's good to say. So I support this because parents, if they watch some of those programs, I think they will feel the same way. It's good for their kids, will unleash their entrepreneur spirit, and will lift the poor kids out of poverty. And I have been going to school to talk to students. I found out how ignorant they are about economics 101. That's why they demonize free market capitalism, which left people out of poverty to prosperity, and they demonize profit. So talk about our school education today is very concerning to me. So I want to just give my 2 cents as a Chinese immigrant who came to this country almost 24 years old with nothing, and thanks to those financial videos actually helped me learn a lot, of course on my own without any schooling, and I hope our kids will have the same opportunities. Perfect timing, thank you. Wow. I'm done, have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I think that's good. That was something that one. We're trying not to alarm anybody else. No, fun attendance. Hopefully we'll have the volume down enough. So David Trumbull was up next.
can I also say, if you know that you're next, you're gonna be coming on the list soon, maybe think about queuing yourself up just so that we can keep the turnover quick too and move through the speakers as quickly as possible.
Mr. Trump, you were our last one, right? All right. Welcome.
New topics.
Okay.
My name is David Trumbull. I'm from the town of Ware. Thank you for having me today. First, if you adopt the Prager plan, you will reduce the amount of time that our school's children spend on financial literacy by 98%. Right now, every New Hampshire high school offers an in-person class for financial finance. I did a quick study and looked through programs of studies. They're in different departments and they have different names, but they cover basically all of the similar topics. These half-credit courses take about 75 hours of classroom time. That's 300 minutes. If you divide that into 15 topics, you would have 5 hours per topic. This plan says we don't need 5 hours of classroom discussion and assignments. We can replace that with one 5-minute video. That is an insult to our children. They deserve financial education and they won't be getting it from this Prager plan. Second is the issue of RSA 292. Now, the Attorney General issued a report this week that said it doesn't apply to Prager because they only use the word university once on their website. But that's not true. He didn't look at their website very carefully. I found that on their How to Make a Contribution page, it says all donations must be made out to Prager University Foundation. Where would you send it? The mailing address is Prager University Foundation, Florida. They have a section called About Us. They say we are Prager University Foundation, a tax-exempt company. If you look up their tax forms on the internet, they file them as Prager University Foundation. When they file lawsuits, like when they sued YouTube and Google, they're listed as the plaintiff as Prager University. It's to their advantage to have people believe that they're credible because they use the word university. But the statute, 292, says no corporation shall in any way use the term college or university in connection with their institution. I think 6 examples I've just given you shows that they are using that term in connection with their institution. The Attorney General goes on to say, well, they don't have a building in New Hampshire. That doesn't matter. The law was amended in 1973 and again in 2015 to include out-of-state institutions, even if they're just offering courses. They don't have to be offering degrees. Then our Attorney General says, well, there can't be consumer fraud because it's free. But the legislative history of 292, and you can only find it by going over to the archives building. And I spent yesterday afternoon there pouring through boxes of old papers. But what happened was they wanted to make sure, with the proliferation of community colleges and junior colleges and all kinds of higher education, that if you use the word college or university, that you are living up to the high educational standards for all colleges and universities. It wasn't about whether or not it's free or not. It was about, is it a quality education? This is not some legal technicality. It goes to the heart of the matter. Is a 5-minute video equal to 5 hours of instruction? No, it's not. PragerU's videos are entertaining, but they're not sufficient to give credit for it. We shouldn't give our good name as a state saying 1 hour of class can be replaced with per 1 minute of video. If you take it, time's up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I have.
If you have testimony, you can hand it right over here. We can add it to the record.
If anybody has any written testimony, I'll take that here. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Governor Nelson.
Thank you for considering this testimony. My name is Deborah Nelson and I live in Hanover. I'm a retired high school English and social studies teacher and I currently serve on my local school boards, plural, although I'm not speaking officially on their behalf. In 3 decades teaching American studies, there were many lessons that focused on financial matters. Just one example is the stock market crash and the resulting Great Depression. We looked at contributing factors like buying on margin, risky investments, vulnerable individuals investing their savings with little knowledge of the stock market, and students had no idea that banks could fail, all deposits be lost, and that there was no such thing as the FDIC. Class discussion was lively. Students asked about pensions and the retirement benefits. They did research and they were interested in the degree to which there are now additional protections. Mind you, This was just one topic among the many we can all agree contribute to teaching financial literacy. I would like to stress the importance of discussion, of questioning, of researching historical documents for answers, as these are normal occurrences in classrooms with credentialed teachers leading the lessons. And it is with credentialed teachers leading the lessons that students learn with depth, the opportunity to question, and the likelihood of retention. I would also like to comment on the notion that watching 15 5-minute videos, as my predecessor commented, or 1.5 hours of film is adequate instruction in such an important topic. Do you really think parents will accept that watching clips, perhaps taking notes, and then answering 45 multiple choice questions with those notes is sufficient in meeting the graduation requirement? Imagine if a teacher tried that. A real teacher, a credentialed teacher, current teachers. I raised this issue with local high school students in a discussion about curriculum just this week. One said he watched a YouTube video on a subject he was interested in, but can't remember a single thing about the topic because, quote, it doesn't stick in my head. Another commented that this proposed offering would allow peers to, in his words, get away with doing virtually nothing for a graduation credit. I will leave to others the many concerns with Prager, quote unquote, university, problems with algorithms and biased information. I think it more than enough to be concerned about the cheapening of a high school diploma and the lack of professional courtesy extended to certified educators in the state of New Hampshire. Thank you very much. I did submit to Angela Adams my comments on email for all of you, so thank you.
Brenda Perkins.
Morning. My name is Brenda Perkins. I'm a 40-year resident of New Hampshire, a product of New Hampshire Public Schools, a realtor with a strict code of ethics, and a mother of a thriving public school student. New Hampshire is a small but mighty state known for its quality public education. PragerU wants to claim our public education has gone too far. Since when is including all children in the opportunity to thrive in public school system too far? I understand that this piece is for their financial piece, but you cannot separate the creation from the creator. Opening the door to an unaccredited organization with exclusionary ideology is like lighting a match to a slow-burning fuse. Our students the tinder, and our future economy and growth the home that will later burn. The door that opens to their education for our kids, which is an extreme perspective made to demonize the North that fought against slavery and make slavery sound like a good thing. The founder himself is referred to Muslim women as anti-human, yet in my search, not one word against white supremacist groups covered from head to toe, nothing calling them anti-humans. Their platform is anti-LGBTQIA. Children from this community have a higher rate of suicidal concerns than any other group of children in our country. Opening the door to PragerU is the start of allowing these unaccredited opinions into our schools, which will only further escalate issues for these children. Instead of bringing factual history, scientific studies, and psychological knowledge to our students. PragerU is opinion, not fact. Even in 2 of their own videos I watched, they had 2 different timelines for Columbus's travel. Who's to say their financial programs are any more accurate? I trust our educators to educate. Again, you cannot separate the creation from the creator. They want you to think it's separate, but it is the Trojan horse to future inclusion of their materials. In 2023, we cannot even consider this kind of propaganda programs to become an educational tool in a state ranked in the top 10 of our country. Their platform does not bring balance to education, it brings exclusionary behavior. As a realtor and as a mother, I strongly believe in the American way of justice, of liberty and justice for all, not just for those that look like me, talk like me, and act like me. Please say no to PragerU. Our kids deserve better.
If you guys could shorten the applause, you could welcome to applause, just like a little clap. got a lot of people to get through. Mary, look.
Could you state the next person as well so they can queue up? That would
Good
be-
idea.
Good idea, thank you. Paul Royale. Yes, or Royal.
On deck.
You're on deck. Mary, look.
I guess I'm back.
Yeah.
My name's Mary Wilkie, and I'm a retired public school teacher, and I'm a member of the Hampshire Coalition. And although I have concerns that have been already raised, and I'm sure will be raised, I'm addressing my concerns primarily to the quality of this as an educational experience. So I'd like you to imagine sitting around your dinner table with your family, and your high schoolers describes what they did in their financial literacy class that day. And she says, well, all we ever do is watch 5-minute videos. And then we can fill out worksheets if we want, but our teacher doesn't collect them, and our teacher does not provide feedback on them. And if I have a question, my teacher tells me, just ask your parents, but of course my parents may or may not have the background to answer that. I think if you heard that story from your teenager, you would not think that was a good education. You would probably march down to the high school and say, what's going on? Teachers sitting there just showing videos, are you kidding? So that's what we're getting with this program, right? 5-minute videos and optional worksheets. And the person you can ask for clarification is your parent, who maybe can help and maybe can't. I think this falls, and I would hope you would agree, it falls woefully short of the quality that we expect for our students. Learn Everywhere was not sold as a chance to bypass a rich and rigorous educational experience. We were told the whole idea was to offer authentic, hands-on, and work-based alternatives to classroom experiences. There's nothing authentic, work-based, or hands-on about kids sitting alone in their bedrooms, looking at their iPhones and watching videos. Some of you might respond that, well, what really counts is whether in the end they can demonstrate mastery of the competencies. But first of all, that's no excuse for approving a substandard educational program. And secondly, as was clear at the hearing last month, and also from the department's own evaluation report, PragerU's multiple choice assessment won't actually measure that the students have mastered the content. It's telling that so far not a single educator has weighed in favor of this program. Even educators who last month stated that the videos were factually accurate cautioned that they should not stand alone as the only source of information. And in fact, the CEO of PragerU herself has stated on a video that the videos, that their educational videos, well, she called them edutainment, were intended to be supplementary, not to be standalone experiences. It became clear last month that some board members were troubled by this, and Commissioner you suggested maybe make the course a 1/4 credit instead of 1/2. But I don't see how that solves the problem. If the assessment doesn't allow the student to demonstrate mastery, then how is any credit warranted? And also, if you give a 1/4 of a credit to this, and a 1/4 for another one, how do you know they dovetail and the student really gets the whole half credit? Thank you.
Paul Royal and then Janet Wood.
Good morning. Thanks for giving me a list. I'm gonna leave the content of the financial literacy program from PragerU to people that know better than I. My name's Paul Royal, I'm from Exeter, New Hampshire, and I was a certified financial practitioner until a couple of years ago when I gave that up. While I was doing that, I volunteered for a program called Jumpstart, and I have literally spoken to hundreds of children in New Hampshire about financial literacy. Let me take you back to 1973, 50 years ago, when an artist named Richard Serra created a short film where he stated, "Commercial broadcasting, the viewer pays for the privilege of having himself sold. It is the consumer who is consumed." You are the product of TV. You are delivered to the advertiser who is the customer. You are the product. In this case, I submit that allowing PragerU, in the spirit of public school education, makes school-age children the product. Prager offers a documentary film on its website which states that it celebrates PragerU's first 10 years in the mind-changing business. But when you first opened the site, you were asked for a $100 donation to receive a book written by Will Witt. Do Not Comply is the title. Take Power Back from the Corrupt Elite. The $100 is clearly stated to support free content to continue to reach millions of young people online. This is a slippery slope, make no mistake about it. Within this promotional treatment of disinformation, they include fossil fuels, the greenest energy, a history lesson on Che Guevara from Tucker Carlson. And I also submit to you, of the people speaking here today, the audience may not be different, but what they say might be different if the free content was to be provided by such organizations as the ACLU or the Southern Poverty Law Center. Teachers can implement content grounded in traditional American values. What are those? While teaching foundational knowledge and subjects ranging from civics to financial literacy. Constant references to leftist politics. I'm going to leave you with something that might be more impactful. Again, avoiding the content. I've always believed, especially during these difficult times, good, lasting, effective, meaningful legislation comes from somewhere near the middle. I submit to you that while biases cannot be eliminated in the classroom, the same is true for lasting, meaningful education. Thank you for your time.
Janet Ward and then Michaela Danita.
Good morning. My name is Janet Ward. I'm from Kentucky. I come before you this morning to ask that you vote against approval of the inclusion of PragerU's financial literacy course in New Hampshire's Learn Everywhere program. I ask this for the following reasons. There are many financial literacy courses available which do not connect students to the problematic content from non-academic sources and are far superior pedagogically. Offering any course which carries the label PragerU unnecessarily provides students with a connection to a partisan website which provides inaccurate and harmful content on a variety of subjects. The financial literacy course may be marginally acceptable as a teaching tool, but as approval of this course would serve as a gateway to its founder's conservative ideology, its inclusion in New Hampshire's Learn Everywhere program is simply wrong. As you know, PragerU was founded by a political pundit, not an educator. And PragerU's website offers students entry into a host of politically conservative videos. This course, simply by the use of the PragerU label, would serve as a camel's nose under the tent and will provide a clever but completely inappropriate entryway into the lives of public school students and their families. Should this board, should this board approve PragerU's financial literacy course, we will be certain, thank you, to inform New Hampshire citizens of the harmful consequences that will flow from this decision. Thank you.
Michaela Danita.
That's me.
And then Anne-Marie Baker was next.
Good morning, my name is Michaela Downer. I'm a resident of Dover, and I also serve on the Dover School Board, though I only speak for myself today. I am here to oppose the approval of PragerU and its crash course, financial literacy curriculum. Oh, excuse me, I misspoke. Curriculum is not the correct word to use here. In the About Us section of their website, visitors learn, quote, Prager University Foundation, PragerU, offers offers a free alternative to the dominant left-wing ideology in culture, media, and education, end quote. Their 2023 biannual report states, quote, "Do you think the left is scaling back? You know the answer. They will use our nation's problems to push for more government control. They are following the Marxist playbook we are well familiar with. The left is a force for chaos. They will stop at nothing to convince the American people only big government will save them, and they will spend billions to do it," end quote. I want you to consider for a moment whether a teacher in a New Hampshire public school would be allowed to speak such words in a classroom. Instead, lambasted right-leaning ideals? The answer in both cases is no. I hope we agree that neither option is an acceptable way to educate any students, especially in public schools. PragerU does not even attempt to hide its outward contempt for and mission against one entire side of the political spectrum. At every turn, its content, mission, and phrasing uses hyperbolic scare tactics to sway its viewers toward a very clearly stated goal. Once again, quote, "Prager University Foundation, PragerU, offers a free alternative to the dominant left-wing ideology in culture, media, and education," end quote. One paragraph further down in their biannual report, readers are treated to this plea. Quote, "We can't do it alone. I ask you to stretch with us. Every dollar is needed for our fight. Every dollar is used with care. Every dollar helps us save another young mind. God bless you and your loved ones, and bless you for fighting for America by supporting PragerU," end quote. It would be disingenuous at best for this board to suggest that moving these 15 financial edutainment videos to their own website, as has been suggested, would somehow disentangle them from the hyper-partisan reputation PragerU has so carefully and intentionally built for itself. To recap, PragerU is overtly and proudly partisan. PragerU solicits money at every turn from its viewers. PragerU is wrong for New Hampshire's Learn Everywhere credit program and wrong for New Hampshire students. I urge you to reject their application today. Thank you.
Avery Banfield is up next. Anne-Marie here. And then next would be Rep. Linda Haskell.
It's hard to hear you.
Louder? Oh, sorry.
Get
yeah,
a teacher
sure.
to read the list.
Anne-Marie Banfield is up next. Let's have some order in this, please. Go ahead.
As a parental rights advocate focused on excellence in education, financial literacy is an important subject our children should be learning in our public schools. I must first admit that I believe the best quality education a child can receive comes from an instructor, someone who can interact with the student and address questions the student might have when learning the academic content, and videos don't provide that. However, as you know, there was an incident several years ago when students in Bedford were required to read a pro-Marxist book written by a social activist in their personal finance class. In this incident, parents may want to opt for an alternative that provides quality academic content. Upon reviewing the videos provided by PragerU, I was pleasantly surprised that the quality of the academic content students would learn. This kind of content should be available to all children who take the class in their public school. I suspect that if schools provided this quality content, parents wouldn't have to look for an alternative. When parents are faced with poor quality academic content in their local schools, as was the case in Bedford, this would have been a better alternative. Some of those who object to this course appear to also be coming from political points of view themselves. And while I don't agree with everything Dennis Prager has said, I think that it is important to look at the content, what the students will be learning. I am a business major. I thought that some of the content was actually good. So what do you do when you have a good quality academic content that families families can use to educate their children, but the organization itself is one that can be described as a political organization. No one who came before the board provided any alternatives. I went through all of the previous written testimony. I've been listening. Who has anything alternative? Maybe you adopt this if this is the best alternative right now, but you leave yourself open if somebody happens to provide you with something better. They need information, and these videos offer that. I believe that consistency is needed. If you want to make it clear that these programs are acceptable as long as the content is rich and politically unbiased, then please make that statement if you prove these using this criteria. I would not agree with these videos if there was a political bias in them from either the right or the left. While some have tried to make the argument that this video on taxes included negative feelings on taxes, as Chairman Klein pointed out, the message countered that with information on those taxes that needed to be provided for services in the community. I would suggest looking for anything that might provide similar quality, but from another organization. If that is not currently available, then maybe the answer is to provide the program now until something better is available. Is that my time?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Rep. Linda Haskins. And then, Karen Dudra.
Karen Dudra will be on deck.
Good morning, Representative Linda Haskins, Rockingham 11, Exeter. A couple of thoughts as I listened to previous testimony. Those who oppose this program are not arguing against financial literacy. It is also true that there are teachers, trained, licensed public school teachers, who do teach it and who can continue to teach it. PragerU is not our only alternative by far. Firstly, I believe that most parents would agree that their kids spend too much time on their devices studying what is a graduation requirement called financial literacy with jaunty little Barbie-like characters online is suboptimal, to say the very least. If the Department of Ed has determined that our students should have indeed financial literacy, then they should employ trained, licensed public school teachers to teach them, and we already have them. There are plenty of legitimate teachers equipped to do just that. Secondly, having reviewed the website for the organization with the disingenuous name of PragerU, I think that's been established this morning. It strikes me as inappropriate to sign a contract with this media company whose CEO makes over $1 million to teach New Hampshire students anything at all. A simple online search reveals the controversial nature of this advocacy and media organization begun by a former talk show, as we've heard, and the CEO, Marissa Streit, who has recorded multiple videos with Betsy DeVos, the star proponent of the privatization of public education. Meanwhile, in addition to Ms. Streit's videos with Betsy DeVos, there are others which include the following titles: How Progressive Prosecutors Destroy Minority Communities, Get the Truth About Climate Change, Woke to Broke, Why I Sued My Daughter's Woke School. Although we are told that the Prager Company will only show the financial literacy videos and scrub all the other content, it should be obvious to note that we don't choose other curricula for our schools, irrespective of the goals of those who produce the content. I think our kids are smart enough to do a little web search on their own. A review of means and goals of the Prager Company can be seen on their website. It's very overt. There's no subtlety here. PragerU is free to the whole world and is focused on changing minds. I was an English teacher. That's called indoctrination, not education. Again, from someone as a trained teacher who actually held a license to teach, this is not what New Hampshire needs in
I implore you to reject the application. Thank you.
Karen, Deirdre?
Yes, good
All
morning,
right,
my
and
name's
then-
Karen Dudra.
Okay, 1 second, I'm gonna give, that's okay, who's on deck is, Nanny Brenna?
Manny Brennan?
Is that, okay, so we have.
Okay, you're up next.
You're up next, okay, go ahead.
Good morning, my name is Karen Dudra, and as stated, I live in Exeter, New Hampshire. I want to speak to the process as I've gathered, that's been employed in choosing this curriculum. And I'd like to use the business model, because we're a state that appreciates the business model. Let's just say I run a business, and my business makes they manufacture a high quality product. A salesman comes in, and that salesman pitches a new conveyor system to the company's purchasing agent. The problem is that the company doesn't make quality conveyor systems. They make another product that has almost nothing to do with manufacturing, in fact. In a well-run company, does the purchasing agent pull the trigger because on its face the system looks good to the agent? Or does he call in the engineers, the quality control department, and the people on the floor for their input? As a shareholder in the company called New Hampshire Public Education, I want to know that curriculum are carefully vetted and reviewed carefully. And finally, I want a CEO who adheres to best practices.
Brenna, you're up, and then William Pollock is next.
Good morning, thank you. Nancy Brennan from Ware, retired educator, and I have served on a local school board. I have a question. Why the PragerU Cash Course? Is this program more innovative than what kids already have access to? Is it better than what our public and private schools teach? Is it better than what's already a part of Learn Everywhere through Fit Money? How about the two courses offered by VLAX? Do we need yet another choice? Or is there something else at play here? I watched the Cash Course videos. They were okay, not rigorous, not the hands-on approach Learn Everywhere touts, and didn't even have as much time involved as the hands-on unit on budgeting I used to do with my 8th graders, but they weren't bad. Then I sampled other Prager videos.
It is not your time. You still have, I'm gonna pause for, you still have about 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. Through PragerU, impressionable kids are taught, among other things, that fossil fuels are good, wind and solar are bad, girls should smile, real men rescue the damsel, slavery wasn't so bad, everyone was doing it, better than being killed, colonization helped people, climate activists are like Nazis, being transgender isn't real, and Grant forgave Lee because, by gosh, Lee was just caught on the wrong side of things. Now, if that presentation sounds flip and silly, it's because so many of the videos that I watched came across that way to me. The clown-like cop with the oversized hat and the high-water pants telling the kid how to act when he gets stopped by the police. Because if he gets hurt, it's because the policeman needs to keep himself safe. Why would the state of New Hampshire want to partner with a right-wing digital propaganda organization that distorts or downplays climate change, racism, history, science, and more. Prager himself said in one of the videos I watched on his folksy fireside chat that climate change is media propaganda. He knows this because he was in California during Tropical Storm Hillary and it didn't rain on him. Is it really cash course you're looking at? Or can we expect that down the road we will join Oklahoma and Florida to bring this malarkey into New Hampshire's public schools? I hope not. As the saying goes, I was born at night, but not last night.
William Pollitt and Teresa Wyman is up next.
Teresa Wyman next.
Good morning. My name is William Pollitt. I'm a 39-year Ware resident, and I'm a wholeheartedly enthusiastic supporter of public education. I'm a member of the Ware School Board, but I am speaking today as a private citizen, not as a board member. I object to Commissioner Edelblut's proposal to add PragerU's cash course offerings to meet the state's financial literacy requirement. Prager calls these videos, quote, edutainment, a blend of education and entertainment, which anyone would find long on the latter and very short on the former. Oversimplified, shallow, and lacking in hands-on student engagement. Compared to actual high school personal finance classes, Prager's offerings are so lacking in rigor as to be laughable. For example, presenting the difference between simple and compound interest without having students do the math is unthinkable. These materials may have utility as conversation starters around the family dinner table, but they do not belong in an educational setting and certainly not to fulfill a state-mandated credit requirement. The innocuous, if inadequate, cash course videos are clearly the camel's nose under the tent, a welcome mat into our public schools for Prager's propaganda. In other subject areas, Prager presenters distort and ignore facts and context in pursuit of their own exclusionary agendas and a Procrustean intolerance which deliberately or out of ignorance serves at minimum to marginalize certain students, encouraging disintegration rather than the integration that we should all seek. As an aside, I'd ask the Prager people here to look up the story of the bed of Procrustes. Am I alone in noting the conceit of the Prager organization to give itself the unearned and undeserved status of university? Universities do not engage in dumbing down curriculum in order to make it fun rather than valuable, and they work very hard not to violate the late Daniel Patrick Moynihan's dictum that you're entitled to your own opinion, but not your own facts. Prager fails on multiple counts, and I urge the board as strenuously as I can to reject once and for all, no more tabling business, Prager's materials as for-credit resources in New Hampshire public schools. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Teresa Wyman is up next, and then Laura Carlisle from Salisbury.
First, I want to say I am impressed how many people came how far to speak about this. I think that shows a lot of heart in people's objections to this harebrained scheme. I am from Canterbury. I grew up next door to the Shaker Village, and I knew the last of the sisters. I knew some of them very well. They taught me love, most of all love. They taught me integrity, and they taught me honesty. I don't see any of those three things, but especially not integrity or honesty with so-called you. I am the child of educators. I decided by the time I was 12, I didn't want to be a teacher because that was too much work, which it is for a good teacher. So I became a nurse, but that wasn't a lot of work. As a nurse, I did a lot of teaching. And I asked people that knew, including a man I was with for 20 years who taught at UNH, about my teaching techniques. One of them was always to ask the client, does that make sense to you? And re-explain as many times as possible. Now I ask you on the board, do you want me to give you the facts as they are known at that time, the information about your anatomy and physiology? Or do you want me to make something up that seems to appeal? I direct that directly at you, Mr. Abbott. In the time I may have left, I want to say that I am a proud product of public schools. I did not go to the Shakers one-room schoolhouse. It closed before I started school. I started school in the Canterbury Elementary School. I finished school. I got my nursing degree at the University of Massachusetts. I chose that rather than UNH because it was cheap and I had a place to live because my dad by that time was teaching at UMass. He started his teaching career teaching 6th grade in the Tilton Northfield School. My dad was a well-known scholar of the Holocaust, and I will inject here, some of this stuff sort of sounds like Holocaust denial, which is very, very upsetting. My dad's work was very well received, was impeccably researched. He was the poster child for OCD. I know I took care of him in the last 6 years of his life. There were people who tried to tear it apart, particularly people that thought Roosevelt was wonderful, which he was in some ways, but he was not good about getting refugees here from the Holocaust. Every single time they tried to tear Dad's work apart, it came back to the fact that it was so well documented that they couldn't. I want information that is well documented. I don't want people's opinions on school kids. Thank you.
Warner Carlisle, and then the Reverend John Gregory Davis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'll state right up front, I'm against the PragerU. I just think it's a waste of time. We train our teachers, they go for a lot of schooling, they're accredited, they have to continue their education. I went to their website to check out PragerU, and I didn't sign up for anything. I immediately got emails that spewed their hate. And I think, I've worked in the industry all my life, I retired in 2021. How many times have big businesses been hacked and their information stolen? So even if our kids in school use a separate email, they could get hacked and they're gonna be inundated with this information. I do believe in learning everywhere. I continue to learn myself. I think it's important. Financial literacy is important. This is something that's gonna run our businesses, our country, our lives. It's important. But our teachers are the ones that are qualified to do this, not an outside source. I was in sales, and we all probably should know this, but they give away the razor so you can have to buy the razor blades. So if PragerU is giving us this free stuff, I would run as fast as you can in the other direction. Thank you.
All right, Reverend Gregory Davis, and then Claudia Estelle from Ackworth.
Good morning, yes, I'm the Reverend John Gregory Davis from American, Hampshire, and co-pastor of the Congregational Church. As I've been listening, I would say that truth is stranger than fiction, except I'm not sure there's a lot of truth here, but there certainly is fiction. I don't think we could make this up if we tried. I mean, this room is full of trained educators. You're the Board of Education, so I'm going to make the assumption that education matters to us. But you'd never know it from this conversation. Now, I think we all grew up in a situation where we learned there's a difference between propaganda or indoctrination and education. And yet we're acting as if there's no difference here. We're debating connecting with a company that clearly has an indoctrination propaganda agenda. Their business is changing minds. Excuse me? Who said my mind needed to be changed? If I told you my business was changing your mind, and you felt like the way I wanted to change it was inappropriate, would you consider that education or indoctrination? Shouldn't education be about opening minds, about encouraging us to think critically, to learn a variety of perspectives? We've heard already that, and I think it's a legitimate concern, that to connect with a company that clearly has an indoctrination agenda is problematical in all sorts of ways. And clearly, in fact, if this company had a woke agenda, I'm guessing from the perspective of men, you wouldn't even consider it, because that would be an agenda that you consider appropriate. But somehow maybe this agenda feels like it's okay to do to our students what wants to be done here. I'm gonna hope and assume that, think better of you if that's not the case. Secondly, we've heard there are multiple ways that financial literacy can be taught. And I can't believe that we're having a debate about one propagandistic company that claims it can teach financial literacy. I'm not a businessman, but I assume if you're looking for a vendor, you interview a number of people who can provide the service, and you go with the best one. This clearly is not the best one. For all those reasons, for everything that's been said and will be said, and I want to emphasize again, you have yet to hear from one educator, and as soon as the Board of Education, that matters to you, from one educator that this makes sense. Clearly, we need to end this conversation and move forward in a way that can ensure the kind of financial literacy and opening minds education that I assume is important to all of us. Thank you.
Claudia, Estelle, and then Deborah House.
Good morning, I'm Claudia Estelle from Ashford. I'm a retired high school teacher, and I'm currently an adjunct in the community college system. I am asking you to oppose acquiring the PragerU financial literacy program as an option for New Hampshire students to fulfill a 0.5 credit requirement in financial literacy for high school graduation requirement for the following reasons. First, New Hampshire focuses its education for high school students on competency-based education and mastery. And I'm asking how this PragerU program assess competency and mastery of the students. The students only need to watch videos and answer questions whose answers can be found on the internet. The legislature has long been concerned about students who have an understanding of financial literacy, and that because they haven't had that, there is this new legislation. As a retired high school teacher, I'll tell you that the students who don't see a need for practical knowledge will not necessarily invest their efforts into learning, much less mastering what the curriculum is. High school students, just like the rest of us, know very well how to jump through hoops to achieve an end, rather than doing the learning that we're hoping they'll do. Secondly, we have high standards in New Hampshire for preparation of teachers, for our curriculum, for how our schools are organized and operate, and we do this through teacher accreditation programs and through school accreditation programs. PragerU is not an accredited educational institution. Who developed their curriculum? Is it done with understanding of pedagogy, understanding of how to educate students, how students learn, and what are best practices in teaching? And thirdly, their agenda is to spread propaganda. We've said that you've heard that many times, so I'm not going to say that more, but except to say that those are not New Hampshire values, and we have been so concerned in this country and in this state over the last few years about indoctrination of students, and yet this seems to invite the possibility of indoctrinating students. I would ask you to ask what their motivation is. Please do not approve PragerU financial literacy program or any of their other programs for use in New Hampshire schools. Our students deserve better. Thank you.
Deborah House, and then Tia Winter from Lebanon.
trying to revise my comments, as many of the people opposing this application have said things I have to say. But I want to talk about your responsibility as a board, and you are here to set high standards for all of our Granite State students. I think we all agree we want our students here in New Hampshire to get a rigorous, honest education. We want them to be relevantly prepared for their journey in life and to represent the best of the Granite State. Approving this program for Learn Everywhere credit simply put lowers those standards. It is passive learning. Watching 5-minute videos, no matter how well produced, no matter how catchy and entertaining, is passive learning. And we know from cognitive science that we only remember 10 to 15% of what we see and hear, even if it's in a video, but we remember about 85% of what we do. Watching a video and doing a worksheet doesn't help you remember it when it counts. There's no chance for discussion of concepts, no chance to clarify understanding with a human being, no experiential learning, no simulations, no going out to apply what you have learned. Nothing that makes sure that students can use this information when it really counts. And I know when the legislature approved this as part of the content of an adequate education, their concern was they want to make sure that Granite State students had important financial concepts embedded in their understanding so they couldn't be taken advantage of. So they knew about savings, they knew about credit cards and loans, so that they, and business practices, so that when they were getting a job or starting a business, they had the skills they needed so that they could be good contributing members of our state and our society. This is not an appropriate program for graduation credit. We do teach financial literacy in our public schools at various grade levels, usually as units in other courses. It's taught a little bit in elementary school, often as savings programs, partnering with local banks or credit unions. My son, who is in his 30s, still has the account he opened in elementary school. It's also taught in middle schools in week-long units, often as experiential learning. They do simulations about budgeting and what goes into choosing a job, how much you might make, what your costs of living are. And you keep track of that throughout the semester or trimester. Oh, my time is up? Yeah. Oh, darn. So I appreciate the chance to address you on behalf of all my members across the state and the students we serve. This is not worth graduation credit because it is not good learning for our students. Our students deserve better. Do not cheapen Granite State high school diplomas by approving this program.
I just wanted to encourage you to leave if you have written comments, to print them out, send them to us.
I can email them to you.
Can I ask you one other question, Deb? If I did that, can you see that?
Can I see that?
No. Okay. I was just thinking that maybe you would know what the countdown is. It might be helpful. It's sorry. No, okay.
We used to have a big clock.
Yeah.
We'll have to
It
get
was
another one.
analog and it
If
wasn't.
it were over here, but then you couldn't see it.
Right.
Probably. Don't need to
Thanks,
remove.
Doug. Yeah, I think we need to get a big digital. Oh, so do you want to?
Okay, I'm gonna take that back and bring it back in.
Sure. Okay.
Tia Winter, yeah.
Yeah, Tia Winter, and then, so I had a request from a member to just take a short break after yours. So, what we're gonna do is, we'll let Ms. Winter go. State Representative Perez is up next, but Representative Perez, I think we might wanna take just a couple-minute break for the board before we get to you, if that's okay with everybody else. So, Ms. Winter, you're up.
Good morning, I am Tia Winter, I'm from Lebanon, New Hampshire. I am also a member of the Lebanon School Board. And I am here representing the Lebanon School Board. So to be clear, I have been granted approval to make a statement on behalf of the Lebanon School Board in opposition to approving PragerU. So the Lebanon School Board has concerns over PragerU materials being used as academic curriculum. PragerU is not an accredited academic institution. New Hampshire students deserve an education education provided by certified, accredited curriculum and institutions. Accepting PragerU would set a precedent of accepting any educational material through unaccredited programs. Members of this Lebanon School Board have watched the PragerU Cash Course videos. Members of the board have determined these videos do not meet the level of quality students need and deserve as an accepted financial literacy curriculum. These videos lack sufficient rigor in such a complex and important subject as financial literacy. They do not go into enough depth for students to fully understand financial literacy. These videos are overstimulating and offer an information dump too quickly. Students will not be able to absorb and retain the information provided. The Lebanon School Board urges policymakers to avoid stealing the opportunity to truly master financial literacy from New Hampshire students. Watching a total of 75 minutes of overstimulating videos will not provide the financial literacy education our students deserve. The Lebanon School Board is further concerned that the PragerU Cash Course will offer a worksheet at the end of the videos, but it will not require a passing grade to count toward the financial literacy requirement. It is deeply concerning that the New Hampshire students can watch 15 5-minute videos from an unaccredited academic institution and gain required credit for financial literacy without the requirement of demonstrating mastery of the knowledge presented to them. Students allowed to use this route would be at a severe disadvantage compared to students who learned through a semester-long class with comprehension checks. Which brings us to, additionally, we have equity concerns for equitable education among all New Hampshire students. Thank you for your time.
All right, so we're just gonna take a very short break. Hopefully very short. All right, and we are back.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak up this morning. My name is Maria Perez.
And I'm sorry, Representative Perez, I'm gonna pause your time. Folks in the back, if you could quiet down, we have public comment back again, we need to be able to hear. Thank you. Okay.
Start again.
Yeah, we'll start you over.
Thank you again. My name is Maria Perez. I'm the state representative for District 43. And I'm the vice chair of the Human Rights for the National Hispanic Caucus as well. And I'm here and speak against this program. As someone who's immigrant and learns so much in the public education system in New Hampshire, I believe this program, by watching some of the videos, I can't believe the language that they're using. The language against people who look like me and people who look like others in this room. Hate is what they try to teach. I'm not against financial education. As someone who went to college when I was 40 years old, and I saw some of the students from the National High coming to the National Community College, well educated about financial systems and how to take care of the bookkeeping. I agree, we need more financial education, but this program is not what we need. We need to support our public education, we need to support our teachers. We need to provide better, more money, more financial for our public education to continue these programs, taking away from the teachers who already did all what they need. They took all the education that they need to teach our students. This program is not that. 5 minutes on another website. We don't need another website. They try to indoctrinate our students. This is not teaching education. This is teaching hate. We already had so much hate on our state. This kind of program is building more hate than building more better public education. I'm asking you to vote against this program. We don't need any more hate. Thank you.
Okay, so Reverend Gail Kinney is up, and Gianna Gesley or Gesley?
Gianna Kelsey.
Kelsey, sorry.
Still morning. Good morning, folks, and thank you for allowing so many people the opportunity to speak. My name is Gail Kinney. I'm a resident of Canaan, and I am a pastor with
United Church of Christ, serving at the Meriden Congregational Church. I'm here on behalf of my congregation and our entire state denomination's economic justice team to urge you in the strongest terms possible to reject PragerU as an authorized vendor of financial literacy. Just because the commissioner or anyone else is pushing this does not mean that you, the board, have to say yes. I have looked at most of the videos related to financial literacy. They're well produced, they're slick even. I can see why they would be considered captivating. But in my view, as a pastor, as a former public school educator and a former school board chair, the financial literacy videos are shallow. And there is an ideology where they can work it in, even in financial literacy. The tax videos were mentioned last time, and I'll say again that even though, the video acknowledges that yes, taxes paid, they don't say taxes paid for public education, they don't even mention that, but the taxes paid for roads and taxes paid for public safety. But through expressions of the people in the videos, the taxes are mentioned. Taxes, they're horrifying. And so it's the nonverbal cues about what people are supposed to think. And not just that video, but the one about filling out tax forms and understanding your paycheck, the same thing. Deductions for taxes, horror. It's in the facial expressions, and kids will remember that. These videos do touch on important subjects, but in nowhere near the depth or the exploration of key concepts and ideas that anyone would claim to be comprehensive. And so I would say that anyone who says these videos will bring about financial literacy needs to relearn the definition of literacy. But more important, this board, as an official voice of the state of New Hampshire, should not be putting its stamp of approval on PragerU, period. Today it's just financial literacy, but who knows what's going to be asked tomorrow for PragerU to bring to New Hampshire. Your blessing of PragerU gives this vendor bragging rights that PragerU Kids is approved by the state of New Hampshire Board of Education for use by New Hampshire students. And that would be a moral and a public policy travesty. Clearly, PragerU is a good producer of videos, but that doesn't mean they deserve our state's official approval. I ask you, if the Ku Klux Klan or the Aryan Nation or some other such group had slickly produced edutainment videos for students, even on seemingly neutral subjects, would you consider it a good idea for New Hampshire to do business with those groups? I personally would hope not. Likewise, this extreme right-wing vendor with this racist, homophobic, public school denigrating, clean energy hating ideology does not deserve your your stamp of approval for any purpose whatsoever. Thank you.
Karen Scott on deck. Karen Scott on deck.
My name is John Jelsey. I'm a resident of Madbury, New Hampshire, and I'm a trained scientist as well as an active member of my community. I have children in the public school system, and I'm also a member of the Oyster River Cooperative School District School Board. The views that I'm stating here, however, are my own. I ask the board does not accredit PragerU nor PragerU's financial literacy course as part of New Hampshire's Learn Everywhere program. My local school district provides its own financial literacy classes in its personal finance. As Commissioner Edelblut requested the course outline and syllabus from Oyster River a few days ago, the board should be well aware of this. VLEX also already provides an online module for personal finance for half the credit. As the financial literacy class is required as of this year, I'm sure that other districts have also already developed curriculum to fulfill the requirement. Therefore, an outside source of this content is not necessary, as we already have developed courses with fulfill the new requirement in a much more robust manner. The course offered by PragerU is not adequate to fulfill the required competencies nor standards that New Hampshire demands. I viewed the 15 short videos myself, which was easy. It was only about 75 minutes, which is about the length of one high school period. I found the depth, bias, and presentation of PragerU's course insulting to our high school students and our teachers, because it's wholly inadequate to fill a half-credit course nor a quarter-credit course, as has been proposed. It does not fulfill the competencies nor standards that are required in our public school system. It requires no analysis, no critical thinking, no problem solving, and no writing. However, as poor as the supposed course is, a major issue here is that PragerU, despite its intentionally misleading name and form of advertising, is not a university nor is it an accredited educational institution. I personally viewed many other courses and videos on PragerU's site. I found much of the information presented to be shallow at best information and often used unreliable sources. I viewed videos that denied global warming, promoted white Christian nationalism, viewed slavery as good to black people, were virulently anti-immigrant and anti-Muslim, and were actively othering of marginalized groups and anti-LGBTQI folks. This type of material belongs absolutely nowhere in public schools. It is unquestionable that access to PragerU's financial literacy course gives tacit approval to the rest of PragerU's content. To pretend otherwise is frankly disingenuous. A standalone website, as has been proposed, does not and cannot adequately address this issue because that is not how the internet works. Proposing PragerU as a source for learning everywhere program was also unquestionably a political act. Pretending that it was otherwise would be comical, and the consequences to our children were not so dire. Giving PragerU accreditation for any course in New Hampshire simply is not acceptable. Thank you for your time.
Karen gets the award for the best handwriting. So. Anthony, is this you?
No,
Oh.
Karen, you said, I think it's a Karen.
Oh, Karen, you're dead. Oh, sorry, I was confusing the list. Karen Scott is next. Yes, but on deck is Anthony Hovick.
Anthony P.
Anthony with the last name P is on deck. Okay. I'm sorry about that, and sorry for confusing the name, but you do have the best handwriting.
Thank you. Good day. My name is Karen Scott. I come from New Boston. I also am a graduate from National High School. I graduated many, many years ago. I also graduated from a Daniel Webster College. I was valedictorian. I have a degree in business management and a degree in marketing. We owe our children the ability to gain the best education they can to prepare them for the outside world. I am in support of PragerU because I believe that PragerU provides an alternative means to gain that education, and you should grant them approval. New Hampshire students are falling behind in many different areas, and I question whether some of the people here actually looked at the classes and the programs, or if they are just against them because the entity that is creating them is a conservative group. I keep hearing about indoctrination by PragerU. What about the indoctrination that is happening currently with the progressive agendas of the far left that we're seeing in many of our schools? We need to get back to basic education topics. My understanding is, and I believe someone brought up Florida and the students in Florida. Well, my understanding is children in Florida are testing highest in the country. Bringing classes to New Hampshire that will help students catch up to Florida students sounds like a great thing. I would like to see our students in New Hampshire be the best that they can absolutely be. I worked very hard. My parents watched me going to school, and I had my good years, I had my bad years, and when I got to college, and my very first class was an English class, and I got an A-. During high school, I was lucky to pass English. I also speak German though, so I have 2 languages, so that was my excuse, okay? We really need to get back to that education. And I will say that I find it sad that people here now have divided education by political beliefs. Children need, I have respect for other people, and I don't know why everyone is snickering behind me. I sat very silent while other people spoke, and I don't think that's very respectful. So children here need to have multiple options for learning. PragerU is one of those means to supplement their education. To dismiss the PragerU content because it was developed by a conservative base is ill-willed. I ask that you accept the PragerU app. Thank you.
And I would like to reiterate, please do be respectful of the speaker. That would be a polite thing to do.
So, Anthony?
Poor, by the way.
Poor, okay,
So,
sorry,
you know,
you don't win the award for the best
I
handwriting.
apologize, I will readily own that.
Okay, and Jennifer Smith is on deck. Jennifer Smith is on deck.
So, good morning. My name is Anthony Poor, as I mentioned. I'm the president and CEO of the New Hampshire Center for Justice and Equity. And on behalf of the Center's Board of Directors and our staff, I want to thank you for the opportunity to participate in today's State Board of Education. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the New Hampshire Center for Justice Justice and Equity. NHCJ is a statewide nonprofit institution whose mission is to elevate and empower people of color in New Hampshire by fostering connections, changing systems, and meeting community needs to make a better grand state where all can belong. Our vision, if you will, is that we envision a vibrant, flourishing, just, and equitable New Hampshire for all. We seek to describe and address the obstacles experienced by New Hampshire's communities of color and similarly marginalized communities by examining real solutions that reflect New Hampshire's realities and our values. Always emphasizing that New Hampshire is more productive and competitive when everyone can belong and can contribute. Today, I'm here to listen, and I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Jacob Bennett, to listen and engage with our members as needed, and share with our commissioners in the State Board of Education copies of our newest literature review. I have copies here, and I've asked Jacob to share those with you all today, if it's okay with you all. The literature review is entitled A Case for Belonging, a focused review of literature with the relevance to the roles and accountabilities for diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice officials in public education systems. You may have already received your copies, by the way, in the mail last week. In addition to the Commissioner and to the State Board of Education members, we made sure to share copies with our governor, as well as a host of educators, policymakers, superintendents, allies, and educational advocates. Our work is organized into 6 sectors of effort: civic engagement, economic development, government, health, law enforcement, criminal justice, and education. Within the education sector, our team, Jacob, myself, and others, sought to better understand the current evidence around the need for and roles of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice professionals in schools. We commissioned this literature review to synthesize and summarize the evidence base. Our goal, our sincere goal, is to provide education professionals, administrators, policymakers, parents, students, and other stakeholders with an understanding of the how and why the role of PEIJ professionals have developed and evolved in New Hampshire and across the nation. This is particularly true when we think about our population: 1.37 million people in the state, 20.2% of those under the age of 18, or those under the age of 18, or 20.2% of our population reflect my lived experience as a person of color residing in New Hampshire. We are pleased to provide this report to you and members of our community to inform this important conversation currently underway about diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, and its role in our education sector. We are working with a myriad of educational partners, many of them are in this room, and look forward to discussing the contents of the review whenever it's convenient for you all, should you have an interest. We appreciate you very much. You have a good day.
Thank you. So Jennifer Smith is up, and I have Pam Brown. Pam Brown is on deck.
Good morning, thank you. I just want to echo some of the things that have been said about Prager University, the camel's nose under the tent or the foot in the door. It worries me. I typed in, and I didn't even get to the 7th letter when it came up, Prager University, in the search bar. And I think, any kid who starts doing this instead of engaging in classroom stuff that may involve some back and forth is very likely to then just decide to Google that, Prager, even if it's on a separate website, and begin to encounter stuff that's really counterfactual and very biased, and some of which is frankly insulting to people like me. I'm transgender, in case that wasn't obvious to you, and also is very insulting to anyone who wants to have open discussion of concepts. This whole notion that the left is indoctrinating is really pretty silly. There is a wide variety of opinions on the left. I don't consider myself Marxist, even though I am unabashedly progressive. My father considered himself Marxist. On the other hand, he was also a Quaker missionary at times. People really easily get pulled into certain kinds of ways of thinking if they're feeling alienated for whatever reason. And to introduce that possibility that someone's going to get enchanted with this university and the content that is often very counterfactual, not real, that is disturbing to me. You know, and my father was a university professor for most of the early part of his career. He was teaching in an Ivy League college. The fact that he was Marxist did not change the fact that he could teach introductory economics just fine, and that no one objected to what he was teaching. And I really find it insulting that the educational establishment is somehow becoming seen by people like the Prager University edutainers as being some kind of indoctrinators. It is not true, and it needs to end, and we need to get back to being able to have conversations about things that are important in terms of economic literacy, whether or not it's good to have stronger unions, things like that. Right now, someone like Prager thinks all of that needs to go away and get back to that, what I would call McCarthy era kind of mindset from the conservative part of the political spectrum that really just vilifies anyone who is not part of that mindset. If we're going to be able to talk to each other, we need to get away from that. And PragerU is not a good way to do that. And I think you've heard from people who are educators that this is not even really good education material. It's not the way to approach this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go. Jonathan H. is on deck. Jonathan H. It's Reverend Jonathan Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Pam Brown. I'm from Kingston. I'm an economics PhD and a college professor with 40 years teaching experience. I currently teach online classes for high school and undergrads. I'm here to review the PragerU tapes on financial literacy, and I'm here to support them, not as a complete course, but the content they provide on that subject. They might be a possible tool in the toolbox. I've seen many criticisms of the proposed tapes, and it seemed to be 4 different objections. One, they lack rigor. Well, a video is a starting place for learning. It's not the totality of it. As you've approved Sylvan Learning Centers already, they have a complete course outline which involves not only videos possibly, but exercises, research, and dialogue, and that's part of a complete course. There are financial videos everywhere. A selection is even offered by the NEA, for example, which links to several Bill Cosby videos showing the TV family spending dilemmas in order to educate students. Is that NEA rigor? Given the current state of public education, the teachers' unions who complained about PragerU's rigor, I think, had best tend their own gardens. 2, Prager videos are not vetted by professionals. Your Learn Everywhere application requires a description of instructor qualifications. Now, I did comb through their website. I didn't find a list of contributors or people who monitored the content. So I think they should add that to the application, because it is in the application. And they do say they seek out the most qualified credentialed experts. 3, multiple choice quiz assessments are not compliant with New Hampshire's competency-based model. Again, your application requires a description of competency-based rating systems to be used. This should be requested from PragerU to flesh out their lesson plan. 4, political bias. Many of the negative comments today and on the 10th were very predictable and even comical. Everyone has a political bias or perspective. Let's provide options for students and a diversity of age-appropriate perspectives, not censorship, and foster critical thinking. The girl grimacing about taxation was in several of the videos grimacing, because it is about budgets and spending. So, if the Chinese Communist Party offered an excellent algebra video, by the way, I would take it. Lastly, you're opening up a can of worms by moving into authorizing programs. There's thousands of videos out there, including many produced by talented teachers. The administrative structure and expense you'll need to vet and follow up Learning Everywhere options should be challenging. I think the videos look fine, but they are a very slim starting point. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Did you leave your votes with Angela?
Oh, sure. That'd be great. Thank you.
So Jonathan Hopkins, Reverend Jonathan Hopkins. Lauren Selig. And if Jonathan shows up, we'll insert him back into the queue, or if somebody knows. Lawrence, and then Linda Tanner is on deck. Linda Tanner is on deck.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me speak. I am Representative Lauren Selig. I represent Stratford County District 10, which is the town of Durham. And I've gotten quite a lot of feedback from my constituents, but I'm here to speak as myself. I am the parent of a current college freshman and also a high school junior. My junior took a course last year in business education. She had a lot of education in that about financial literacy. She had to understand how businesses work. She had to research how businesses got started. She had to research what made businesses successful and what made them fail. It was particularly of interest to her because she launched her first business, a philanthropic baking business, when she was 9 years old. She's donated about $20,000 in charity in those years, including a huge amount of that to homeless veterans. So I know where I speak from. I'm also, my students also, in addition to that, in their civics education classes and in their economics classes, have really strong educations in financial literacy and what to do and what not to do. As parents, we've also made a point of teaching our kids about how to invest money. And we've given them money and allowed them to invest it with our guidance and our instruction about what the process is, to identify what the safe places are, to put your money in what places are at risk, and how to judge when it's appropriate. I'm an experienced teacher. I used to teach high school English, and as part of my curriculum, I taught career searching and career education, even though that was in my English class. I would have the business teacher come in, and he would bring a copy of his paycheck and explain to students the way in which a paycheck works and how taxes work and how taxes go to fund our necessary things, like education or roads, for example, or the internet. I want to say I very strongly and emphatically oppose implementing any of this content from Prager University. It doesn't actually provide true educational content. It provides little snippets. They remind me a little bit of some of the kinds of things we might have seen when we were kids. You know, those really fun ads like 3 is a magic number. This is perhaps similar content, but it doesn't have the impact of truly teaching long-term lasting benefits. Additionally, reducing credits or moving content to a new site does not solve the problem of bad content. The other thing that really concerns me is that we're removing control, local control, from duly elected officials. People in our communities went out, we met our school board candidates, we vetted them, and we chose who we wanted to make educational decisions for our community. By the state bringing in a program like this, it takes away that aspect of local control. There already are plenty of fully accredited programs in financial education. The federal government offers one. For those of you who have an opposition to federal government, you can look at other places. Our VLAC site offers them. It's free to students in New Hampshire. If they want to work from home, they can do that on VLAX. In fact, they can go be in Hawaii and still work on VLAX. Wouldn't necessarily go to Hawaii now, but maybe. But I also, thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
So Linda Tanner is up, and Carissa Caro is on deck. So is Linda here?
I believe
Representative Tanner was in the back.
Carissa Caro? Or we'll slot you in, and then if Linda shows up, we'll keep going.
I brought you.
So James McKinn is on deck. James McKinn is on deck.
Thanks for, yeah.
I apologize. Is he still here?
Jim is not
James
here.
McKinn? Okay,
Yeah, the
Yeah,
lead. How about Marcia Garber? Okay.
All right, go ahead.
All right, thanks for extending the time today, I really appreciate that. So
I apologize, just because we shouted out so many names, this is just for the recording. Can we get your name again, just so?
Carissa Coro, I live in Pinnacle.
Okay.
And I was here last month, so I don't love to come back here, but I really appreciate that you tabled to extend the conversation. And so I was thinking over the last month about what gets the fire in my belly about this particular thing, and Learn Everywhere as a program. And really, it's just thinking about the design process and how we think about adopting classes or curriculums in our local systems. And so I know you're not an educator, Commissioner DeLu, although you have a really good teacher voice calling folks out. And so I just wanted to talk quickly about the process that I go through with schools to help them
there are no like state standards for financial literacy. Like the Department of Education, the Education Department has not defined what exactly the learning targets are for yourselves, right? We know that local school districts can adopt their own standards and expectations, but those haven't been defined. And so after you define them, then you ask yourself, well, what kinds of evidence will I accept? Then teachers can create the learning experiences and the assessments, and then the students engage with them, and then you ask yourself, did they meet the expectations? Yes or no, what do we do next? Did they not? Yes or no, what do we do next? We don't have that first step. And so I went and I tried to just be my honest, like forget the political stuff, right? If I was going to advise a school district on whether this curriculum was really aligned to their system, what are your expectations? And I don't even know what those are. A couple of them from the initial RSA around planning success, but those learning targets aren't there. And so in order for me to even advise, right, this is good or not good, you have to go back to what are your expectations, what are students producing to demonstrate those expectations, who, not just the multiple guess test, but who is doing the assessment, and then who's checking and going back and circling back and saying, hey, this works or this doesn't work. This is giving the results we need. I really appreciate the person who testified on the business angle. That is exactly what you would do in business. What are our goals? How are we going to get there? Do we get there? No. And then you do an assessment and go back around. You need the first part first before you're able to adopt this particular learning program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna back up a little bit, see, so Reverend Jonathan Hopkins, if he came back up, Representative Tanner, and Marcia. And Marcia, okay, so Marcia, come on up.
Hi, my name is Marcia Gaba. I live in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Oh, sorry, that's not you.
I've lived up here in New Hampshire for 8 years now. I moved up here from Massachusetts. I am really, I understand that there's a process that people can apply for acceptance into the education arena. And I really don't understand when you look at PragerU's website, when you look at who founded this group, and you look beyond, I'm very concerned about the slippery slope, that this is, finance is such a kind of a contentious issue that everybody should understand about finance. I really do think that it's just an invitation to allow this group, if you were to decide to vote to allow this, it would be an invitation for this group to perhaps present the rest of their material, which I have seen and heard some of. They're putting out inaccurate information. I am the parent of 2 children. One was a teacher and is home now with their little people, right, being a parent. And I am very concerned. They live in New Hampshire too. My daughter and her 3 boys. And I do not want them to be exposed to the hate that undermines this group of people. My other child is CJ, and today happens to be his birthday, which why I am here, because CJ was trans. And CJ was so brave in his high school in Quincy, Massachusetts, of 1,500 students, to come out to his classmates, to his teachers, and to hear the things that PragerU says about folks who have different gender identities and expressions. It breaks my heart, My son lived to be 20. He played on the girls' ice hockey team because he had to, because they wouldn't let him play on the boys' team, even though he would have loved to play on the boys' team. And I'm just putting this out here to you, that I am very concerned about the slippery slope, and I'm sure that you all have looked at PragerU and who they are and where they come from, and there are other areas of concern. And I-
Sorry, your time is up.
And I did hear the bell.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
To try to finish the sentence.
Sure,
Yeah.
of course.
So,
Thank-
thank
Bruce,
you.
Bruce
Thank you
Burke.
for listening.
Sure, of course.
Bruce Burke. And then on deck is Aubrey Friedman. Aubrey Friedman is on deck.
Good morning, and thank you for your time. I'm not going to be redundant. We've had a lot of testimony, but I would say, in this conversation about online versus in-class teaching, let's think a moment about the discussion today. Right? This has been invaluable. We have all heard things that we haven't thought about. It's been pretty one-sided, I understand, but this is the beauty of the classroom. And I would say, even though I oppose this amendment, I did go on the website. I saw things on there that I thought were benign. I thought they were positive messages. Story of Esther, story of Japanese soldier who won the Congressional Medal of Honor. So it's not so black and white, but I'm going to take a slightly different tack here. For the last couple of years, I have attended different meetings for the educational committee in New Hampshire. Occasionally, I've testified. I think everybody in this room, I would like to get away from the politicalization of education in New Hampshire. I have listened again and again in committee meetings over the last couple of years about implied woke, implied liberal biases, and now today I'm hearing the exact opposite from PragerU University. There has got to be a simpler way, non-controversial way, to give our kids financial literacy. And if I could go one step sideways, and I'm not losing my focus here, we have a crisis in New Hampshire about attracting new, young teachers. The more we politicize education, the more difficult it is for us to find young teachers. There's got to be a financial literacy program that's not so controversial. If I were a little bit younger, I would have remembered the fact. But a couple weeks ago, I heard a report that something like educational majors at Plymouth State are down more than a third. So why create obstacles when we don't need to? That's all I'm suggesting to this board. Thank you.
Aubrey Freedom and Nancy Peterman is on deck.
Aubrey Friedman, I'm from Bridgewater. I speak in support of adding this option, this financial literacy option for New Hampshire students. So I heard about this hearing a couple days ago, and to be honest, I didn't really know too much about the whole thing. I know the reputation for Prager University, but really much little else. I thought I'll just watch these crash course videos. That's all I watched, and to me they were perfectly fine. There's no politics in it. It is true, some people are complaining today. They're shallow. It's just the beginning of learning, just to get you into the subject. It's not a heavy thing, and it's to get students, not all learning goes on in the classroom. So I watched them, they're like 5 minutes. Actually, one of them's a 50, 30, 20 drill. I didn't even know that. So, it just gets you into the subject. It's not heavy, and then that can get the students more interested, and they can learn on their own. That's what learning is all about. And, not all learning happens in the classroom, to be quite honest. And the stuff that does occur in the classroom, somebody mentioned today about this compound interest. It's so shallow, it just touches on it. Well, how about our students, the math proficiency scores are like in the 30s and 40s, and that's from what's taught by certified licensed teachers in the classroom. So just because learning goes on outside of the classroom, that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing, actually. So the video, the ones I watched, they were not political, they were straightforward, it gets you into the subject, and I think that was fine. That's the whole purpose of learning. And then just lastly, I just want to add, maybe our congressional delegates should take the course themselves, especially the one on budgeting, maybe they learned something. That's it,
Thank you. Okay, so Nancy Biederman is up, and I have Ken Barnes on deck. Ken Barnes is on deck.
Hi, Nancy Biederman, New Boston. I am speaking in favor of the PragerU being an option for financial literacy in the Learn Everywhere program. One point that I feel like keeps getting missed is that this is going to be the only course that they need to get the credit. It's only part of the course that they need to get this credit. So they do need to take additional learning besides this Prager program. And I'd also like to discuss some of the other concerns. People keep saying, oh, the kids are going to Google the answers. Well, yeah, we teach that in school. I'm a veteran teacher in 15 years. If a student needs to find an answer, yeah, go find your resources. Go find the answers. We do this for homework. We do this for projects. Get them researching, because guess what? Once they start researching, they're going to go on and expand and look more and start reading more and go researching more. So that's not a bad thing. The Learn Everywhere program is a choice. This is not being mandated. Not every student is required to take this PragerU course. It's a choice that parents and students have. It is not required. Why are you against parents and students having a choice in materials that they want to taught to their children? And I'm sure, as always, it's always about political sides, and that needs to stop, as we've heard other people say. I don't understand the criticism of the PragerU program as a whole. As we send our children into the world, don't you want them to know both sides of an issue? Don't you want them to hear the other side? Or do you just want them to hear one side? I always invite and want to listen to the other side, because I can't have every viewpoint, every experience that's available. So it's nice to have that our students have their eyes wide open and they are experiencing all that is. Also, I'd like to know why are conservative viewpoints always told that they're misinformation or false, and why are they always called hateful? I've watched many of the PragerU videos over the years, and as a former educator of 15 years, I've always appreciated that they presented both sides of the issue. The scare tactics and fear-mongering over a choice of programs, and again, this was a choice. We're not mandated to get this program, is very disturbing. This is not a mandated course material, and it's not an option for parents or students. I'd also like to bring up the point that someone was referring this program as denying the Holocaust. You need to do a little bit more research. Dennis Prager is a modern Orthodox Jewish faith. That is his faith. So I think he would be very upset that somebody would say that comment about him and his family. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I have Ken Barnes is up, and I've got Louise Spencer is on deck. Louise Spencer is on deck.
Good morning. My name is Ken Barnes. I live in Chisholm, New Hampshire, and thank you for hearing my concerns. I ask you to deny Prager University's or Prager non-university's application to be an authorized vendor publishing these videos, even in financial literacy field. I think a lot of ideas were already articulated today, and I agree with them completely. But I also want to respond to some of the things that were said in earlier testimony today that I think should not go unaddressed. An earlier witness testified that they thought that the public schools today are inundated with liberal and progressive ideas and indoctrination, and that is indeed what Prager says as well. That's simply not true. As you've heard, public schools teach what has been vetted by professional educators as real history, real science. They are not teaching to agendas, and most importantly, they're teaching to open students' minds to think for themselves about what conclusions they're going to reach. And it may have been the same speaker, I think, who said that people like me and others who oppose PragerU here oppose them because PragerU has this a conservative mindset, conservative beliefs. That is absolutely not true, and I want to be very clear about this because don't be fooled. It has nothing to do with their conservative views. They're entitled to their conservative views. They are entitled to hold them and to articulate them in other places. They just can't indoctrinate young people in New Hampshire schools and teach them that their conservative views are the only views. And PragerU's videos also do this while demonizing any liberals or liberal points of view. They demonize liberal beliefs like climate change and racial justice, not to mention demonizing LGBTQ people as human beings at all. So my opposition to PragerU as an authorized vendor, even for financial issues, is that they teach this by erasing unpleasant parts of U.S. history, by omitting significant, like slavery and the aftermath, how racial injustice for 150 years after slavery is still harming people of color. Prager omits significant facts that would be relevant to a listener's ability to think on their own and formulate opinions. They tell a few facts that are skewed to make people believe what Prager wants them to believe, but they omit things like the Rosa Parks story. They omit that she's black. They omit that your segregation laws required black people to sit in the back of the bus. I urge you to reject this amendment.
So Louise Spencer and Kevin Boyarsky on deck. Louise Spencer and Kevin Boyarsky on deck.
Hi, thank you very much for taking my testimony and hearing from others today. My name is Louise Spencer. I'm co-founder of the Penn Street Coalition, an all-volunteer grassroots advocacy organization. So even if you only approve this one particular program on financial literacy, you would be putting the imprimatur of approval on PragerU. And a student would be led to assume that it is a credible resource and might be inclined to go to the website to look for other videos. If they were to do so, their email very well might be captured, as it was for a number of people who went to the website. They might then receive this unsolicited in their email box. Fellow American, vulnerable children are being chemically castrated and surgically mutilated in the name of tolerance and gender-affirming care. Should doctors allow impressionable youth to be put on puberty blockers until they decide what gender they want to be? Take the transgender rights survey. Should our nation be bowing to the transgender mob in this way? So that could arrive in the mailbox, and I'm happy to put this into the testimony. And this is in a state that has consistently rejected anti-trans legislation and seeks to support our LGBTQ+ students. I would also like to say that I have never seen another situation where a vendor has shown up when they're being considered for approval or consideration. We have PragerU here today. While we were outside, they were filming and being very aggressive about their filming of those of us who showed up to speak today and to exercise our rights. This is when I said that I would prefer not to be on the recording. I was told that because this is public, I have to just accept the fact that I will be on the recordings. This is unacceptable and unethical a vendor. And I think it should give you deep reason to consider whether this is an appropriate vendor. Both the emails that are very aggressive and this sort of behavior we observed today, it's not acceptable. And it's not something that we should ask our kids to be subjected to. We hear that this is a voluntary program, but many parents are not gonna have any idea what PragerU is. And this is the foot in the door. I know we've heard it from other testimony, but it's absolutely true. Whether it's approved, whether PragerU is widely approved in New Hampshire or not, this is the foot in the door for the indoctrination proceedings. Thank you very much.
Kevin Borarski is up, and I've got Lorna Landry on deck. Is Kevin here?
Kevin's not here.
Okay, how about Lorna Landry?
That's me.
Great. And I have Jay Lucas, who is up next. He's on deck.
Thanks. I appreciate this time as a citizen to give public input. Add my name to the list of persons who opposes a contract with PragerU for many of the reasons others have already said. Most specifically, what Louise Spencer just said about their aggressive videoing, yet not really having a presence here, to me speaks volumes. I attended a listening session about the proposed rule changes, which are huge, as you folks well know. This was in the spring in Bow, New Hampshire, where I live. I'm a retired RN, so I don't have skin in the game, so to speak. And from that listening session, which was led by Fred Bramante, I came away with more questions than information about the rule changes. This bit about financial literacy is only the tip of the iceberg, and because of its controversy, it's sparking a lot of people to come out here and speak with you, etc. But the picture is way bigger than that. This is an opportunity, it doesn't happen very often, to change these rules. And I am very worried about the slippery slope y'all are going down. I worry about the clear accountability of when we are sending our youth out to an outside learning opportunity, which seemed to be business-based from the session I'd like to involve. Will all the adults encounter that student, will they treat the child with respect and provide a safe learning environment? Will the youth's learning of basics such as proper communication, math skills be included in the opportunity? Will the educators at the school be able to monitor and evaluate progress? It's very important that children's progress be evaluated, and for all of us, evaluation is becoming more and more important, accountability, if you could call it that. So the individual plans with the expected competencies and the evaluations would become a very large burden on hardworking teachers. And I was referenced a bit ago about where we're educating fewer teachers and fewer, it's getting hard for schools to fill positions. Do we need to add another burden on already overworked teachers? Another concern I had when I left that meeting was about the equity that public school provides a free public education. Because some of the examples of the outside learning opportunities referenced by Mr. Ramonte, including earning PE for private gymnastics and credit for cultural learning acquired on family vacations in France. I say, this is an effort in a broader term to defund public education.
Your time is up.
Yeah, thanks.
I have Jay Lucas is up, and I've got Michelle Scott is on deck. Michelle Scott is on deck.
Good morning. I'm Jay Lucas from Portsmouth. Delighted to be here and to also say congratulations on the Learn Everywhere program. It's just, I think, a spectacular program. I I'm here to give my enthusiastic support to adopting PragerU and the financial literacy course. And I'll make my remarks relatively brief, but I just really want to speak to two issues, if I may. One is the actual curriculum itself. So we're really just talking here today about the financial literacy program. And with regard to that, my background is in business. So I have been in business for about the last 30 years or so, and graduated the Harvard Business School, and have fairly rigorous standards in terms of financial literacy and finance courses. I literally went through the entire course over the weekend and have seen everything that's in it. And I can absolutely state that it's a solid, rock-solid course that is not only technically rigorous, but also is very entertaining. I think that's an important element for children who are learning and trying to develop some understanding of financial literacy. It kind of engages them, and that's important. The other thing I learned as I went through the course, and I hope that you all have seen it as well, is that I was looking very closely for any kind of political bias in the material itself. I couldn't find any. I think it's purely objective, very fact-based educational content. Curriculum is going to be really helpful for kids. And financial literacy is, as we all know, is so important. The other issue, so that's number one. So the curriculum, I think, is spectacular. The second thing that I'd like to just talk about is the idea of choice. We are the live free or die state here in New Hampshire. And giving students the choice, some people will want to embrace this course, other people will not, and that's perfectly fine. There are other ways of getting financial literacy education. But to give choice to students and parents, I think is absolutely paramount. So I enthusiastically support this, and I hope that you will adopt the PragerU financial literacy course for the state of New Hampshire. Thank you very much.
Michelle Scott, and I've got Mo Baxley on deck. Is Michelle Scott here? How about Mo Baxley? Deborah Cruzel. Deborah? Okay. We'll come back to the others if we get to the end and they show up.
Hi, I'm Jenny Cruzel from Pelham, New Hampshire, and I've lived there for 23 years. I want to thank you all for all your time, listening to each person's testimony today. I know that takes a lot of time and energy. I've been a realtor for 14 years, and I'm a mom of 2 girls that are 23 and 25, and I'm thrilled that there's a literacy program in New Hampshire now, because as U.S. citizens, we are more in debt than we've ever been in history. And as a realtor, I see the pain of people that can't get qualified for mortgages, and they're struggling with the ability to understand how do finances work. In addition, I also taught for 15 years at MIT, and educators know that students learn in a variety of different ways, and having options is a benefit to all learners. It's new to me, this Learn Everywhere program. I think it's a great opportunity and for the flexibility in learning and the choice for families like the last speaker spoke of. I don't know how many people actually participate in the Learn Everywhere program, but from the previous testimony, you might think that every single student in New Hampshire would be subjected to participating in these PragerU videos, but I really don't know, like this Learn Everywhere program is available for flexibility and for choice of families. So actually last year I substituted for 90 days in the public education system, and I found that between 7th and 12th grades, the majority of the learning is done online. So although it's a nice idea that there's going to be a lot of discussion for all the different topics that are taught, what I found is that most of the education is happening online. So it's not unusual that something like PragerU or something else would be available and used for the students. So I am in strong support of PragerU. I believe that their content is accurate, it's engaging, it's clear and concise, and it can be revisited You know, they need to, oh, I gotta buy a car, how do I do that? Oh, I'm gonna get a new credit card, how do I do that? What should I look for? You know, what should I be worried about? Our focus here should be on the education of our children to prepare them in the future to thrive and live an enriched life and not be stressed out about finances like people are today. In order to do this, we need to set politics aside and focus on the educational options for our students. Frankly, I'm appalled at how many testimonies focus on the politics as opposed to the content of the literacy program. So I encourage the board to approve PragerU in the absence of any other options that have been put forward.
Thank you. Sean Parr. I have Sean Parr.
Sean was in the back a while ago, but I think he might not be here.
And Jody Underwood is next. Sean Parr and Jody Underwood. Anybody coming up?
I saw both of them.
Oh, okay, there we go. And Ian Underwood is on deck.
Oh, are we going down?
You are. Unless Sean shows up, but he's not here, so.
Can I do it tagged? Good, finally, afternoon, everybody. My name is Jody Underwood. I was on the Croydon School, I'm from Croydon, New Hampshire. I'm hungry, so I'm shaking. I didn't realize this was gonna go on for so long. I was on the Croydon School Board for 13 years. I have a PhD in education. I spent a lot of time in classrooms. I have evaluated curricula and assessments. I did some assessment development myself. Worked for ETS for a number of years. So I come at this, I have two objections that I've been hearing that I want to address. The first one is that seat time makes for a good class. And I will get back to this. The second one is that by offering this basically apolitical course on financial literacy, that students are going to be open to indoctrination to gasp conservative values. So, you know, first of all, of course, a lot of kids come from conservative homes, so it wouldn't really be indoctrination there, would it be? But, sorry, I'm going to go back to seat time. So if there really needs to be a good test, and I don't know what the test looks like, I did look at the videos, but if someone can pass a test and we can say that they are financially literate, then it doesn't matter what they did to get there. If PragerU's course opens the door for them to look at, you know, go deeper in this material, great. If they learn it in school, great. But the course has, the test has to be for anything they do, whether it's in school or whether it's, you know, an online course and so on. Everybody probably knows somebody who took algebra in the public schools for at least a year and left that class passing and not knowing what a variable is or how to add fractions or multiply fractions. Are we gonna say that, you know, well, because they took the class that was good? No, we can't. There needs to be a higher standard for passing any class so that we can actually feel good about giving them diplomas and credits for courses. So then the indoctrination thing, and I know this is political and I agree with the people that say that this shouldn't be political, but when you use tax dollars, it's just gonna be. So they're afraid that students are gonna get indoctrinated into conservative values. But the purpose of public schools is to educate students, to create an educated populace. They need to be prepared to evaluate things that they see in the real world. If this opens the door to that, I mean, students in high school should already be questioning these things. They should be able to look at content to decide whether it makes sense, whether it fits into their worldview, and maybe can change their worldview. To close off these ideas to people is a disservice. How do I want to end this? I am a little, I'll finish my sentence though, all right, if you let me. I am disheartened that so many people who have testified today don't even realize that they want to indoctrinate students into their way of thinking by excluding certain types of thoughts, that they don't even know it, and yet that's what they're looking for. Thank you.
Ian Underwood, and on deck is Charlie Post. Charlie Post is on deck.
Hi. My name's Ian Underwood. I am also from Croydon. I am in fact an educator since that's an issue. I have a master's degree in learning science and I ran the world famous Ask Dr. Math service for 20 years where we cleaned up the messes made in public schools and helped the teachers avoid stopping making those messes. I'm here today representing people who appreciate irony. I find it hysterically funny that we're here talking about the need and the method by which we're going to require students to learn financial literacy, when in fact, we already have them for 12 years, and we have a state law that says we are requiring them to have actual literacy, and we're failing spectacularly at it, where the statistics, depending on which ones you pick, fewer than half the kids are reading at even the most basic level of proficiency. So the first irony here is, what, this is gonna be different? We're gonna put in some, we're gonna say, use this, put these courses up. Do we expect them to actually learn financial literacy as well as they've learned actual literacy? Politically, Thomas Jefferson said that only error needs the support of government, truth can stand on its own. And in the same way, only illiterate kids need protection from the wrong ideas. Literate kids, kids who can actually read and think for themselves, don't need to be protected from anything. I live in a town where 2 out of 3 kids in our local school can't read at proficiency. We send kids to a good school where 1 in 4 kids can't read with proficiency. And we send most of our kids to a school where 9 in 10 kids can't read with proficiency. And yet we're here arguing about how we need certified teachers and we need to judge schools on their ideals rather than the results that they have. I also, in terms of irony, it's funny to sit here and listen to people talk about how we need to open children's minds by closing off certain avenues of investigation and things that they should see. John Stuart Mill, for those who aren't familiar with him, gave what I think is the most inspired defense of free speech, in which he basically said people and societies become wiser and better and smarter, not by shielding themselves from the wrong views, but by confronting them. I think his phrase was that truth becomes polished by its collision with error. And so, if we can find people, providers of education who have different views, we should be welcoming them. And if we think that they have the wrong views, we should explain why those views are wrong. Finally, the great irony here for me is how much energy gets put into these things, which are problems which we have pretty much invented for ourselves. If you were to have a hearing, I believe, on why half the kids can't read, you wouldn't get anybody showing up because nobody cares. They care about stuff like this, and I think that's just, as I said, hysterically funny.
Thank you. So Charlie Post is up. And I've got Rich Gerard on deck, and I will tell you after Charlie, there's 5 more speakers, and we're gonna take another break.
Hey, I guess it's good afternoon. The benefit of being number 47 on the list is I've heard a lot already. My name is Charlie Post. I live in Blackburn, Hampshire. I'm here to support the program, the PragerU University program in financial literacy. I think it's really important. I've heard a lot of people speak against the Learn Anywhere concept, and it is really critical that we reach out to kids that don't learn often in more traditional settings. So, you know, the brick and mortar schools are great for some people, but not for everybody. And let's face it, it's an 18th, 17th century, 18th century model of education, and we've seen a re-engineering of just about every aspect of our lives, how we shop, how we pay our taxes, and now how we learn. There's about 76, 80 participants now online watching this, learning about how government operates. I think it's really important that we do that, and this is a great online opportunity for students to learn. That's how they learn. They look at their phones, they look at their tablets, they look at these items, and that's how they learn. Maybe that's not how we learn. I'm not sure what the average age in the room is here, but it's a new model. We need to meet these students where they are, and this is part of that. I've heard a lot of people complain about the politics of this, and they want to get politics out of school. I was on the school board for 6 years. If you don't think that politics are in schools, go to your local school board meeting for 10 minutes and you will see it. I think this is a great program. I'm a retired corporate executive with a degree in finance. It's a good program. It's solid. It explains things. I got to see it work, the outcome of public education, college education, public and private, on personal finance, and we definitely have been letting people down. If I have a college graduate that comes to me and asks me who FICA is when they look at their paycheck for the first time, we have all failed. Everybody in this room has failed. We need to do better. We need to teach people how to, children, to become effective adults. Personal finance is really the key to success in America, among many other things, but it is a key to success. And this is a great method for some people, some students, some learners to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I've got Tiara up next. And I've got Corinne Dodge from Derry on deck. Corinne Dodge is on deck.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. I've sat on that side of the table, so I appreciate the time and patience that you have taken to listen to us. For the last 22 years, I have been in financial services. And I really wish the Prager University videos had come out a whole lot sooner. Because the material contained in those videos is stuff that I literally teach and have taught to over 1,000 families across New England in the last 22 years. It's good material, and while it seems that some people object to the idea that someone might make a funny face at having to pay taxes or otherwise frown at having to have a budget, I can tell you, liberal or conservative or anywhere in between, I have yet to find anybody who really wants to live by a budget, and I have yet to find anyone who really likes to pay taxes. So we might as well play off of it and have some fun. James Madison, paraphrasing, once said that the First Amendment was the perfect remedy. James Madison and the Founding Fathers believed and expressed in the First Amendment that everybody in the public square ought to be able to express their opinion in that square. And I have to wonder, as the son of a teacher, the husband of a teacher, a former school board member, a father who has 5 children, just exactly how are we going to allow everybody's views to come into the public square if there are censors out there who tell us which ones are approved and may be spoken? How are we going to avoid indoctrination if we say, that is wrong, you may not consider it? How are we going to have critical thinking? How are we going to teach kids to open their minds if the points of view out there are not allowed into the public square? That's what we're really talking about here. I did my bit at the beginning as a financial services professional to say the curriculum's okay, but we all know that's not an issue here. And if seat time, I heard a lot, and this used to drive me crazy on the Manchester School Board. You hear about licenses, credentials, accreditation, continuing education, blah, 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 blah. You never hear anything about results. If the same people who are teaching financial literacy in our schools are the same people who are teaching math, we're going to have a problem. Let alone the person who said the federal government should be teaching it. I mean, I don't mean to be trite or disrespectful to anybody's point of view, but the fact of the matter is we need to look at results. Learn everywhere is not a requirement, it's not a mandate, it's an alternative. And this program is an arrow in the quiver. That's all. And for those who want to sit here and demonize PragerU, by the way, we're not going to allow ESPNU to be broadcast in New Hampshire under the law, are really saying they oppose a point of view and they will say anything to discredit it rather than have to engage it, discuss it, and debate it.
Time.
So that everybody else can make their own decision as the founders envisioned when the First Amendment was created as the perfect remedy.
So we have Corinne Dodge is coming up, and I have Lynn Mulrooney is on deck. Lynn Mulrooney is on deck.
My name is Corinne Dodge. I live in Derry. I have my prepared remarks here. afraid. I'm a mother, a grandmother. I'm a retired teacher in public schools and in private schools. I worked with special needs children. I'm afraid that this is the beginning of companies taking over the running of schools. As a teacher, I'm sick and tired of watching public education being gutted. This is what it feels like. There's a whole lot of fancy words being said by the company who wants to make a whole lot of money to come in and do this. But they have no they have no accreditation, they have no, I'm sorry. I guess that's really what I want to say. And I'm asking you, as a board, the New Hampshire Board of Education, to please work to protect our public schools because we need them. And I'm afraid that corporate America is going to take over. Thank you.
So I have Shelley Frost. Or actually, I had Lynn Mulrooney. Yes, I'm sorry, Lynn, you're up next, and Shelley Frost is going to be the on deck. So Lynn is up, and Shelley is on deck. Lynn's going to do her own timer. Good.
Yeah, no, I don't. So, I'm a New Hampshire resident, I'm retired, and the reason I am here is because my children work during the day, or they have young children, so their parents have kids in the school system, but they can't come during the meetings because they're from 10 to 3. Wow. I learned a long time ago that there's no such thing as a free lunch. I never sign up at malls or shows for free vacations because I know it's an advertising pitch that gets a hold of my email, my address, and my phone number, and they contact me constantly. I was a school administrator, and I was approached often by groups who wanted to offer free services and materials. What I am concerned about is motive. That is usually an advertising gimmick. And why does this group want to have access to our schools? They tell us on their website. Maya Angelou said, when people tell you who they are, believe them. I worked in public schools for more than 35 years, and I was alarmed when I saw on the website, donate to the cause. Parents sign this petition. So there is a motive here. We're talking about one financial course right now. My concern is access, the purpose as to why they want schools to adopt their programs. It's an advertising gimmick. It's obvious that the argument here is not about whether children should have a financial literacy course or not. My children are in their 40s and they had financial literacy courses which benefited them greatly, and I appreciate that. It is about, obviously here from the heated discussions and the emotions people are exhibiting, that it's a hot political, controversial topic. I think that the board could find a financial literacy course that does not cause such controversy in the community. I am concerned about this. We see it across the country. One thing I do want to say, is that it?
That's also not for you.
That's it?
Sorry.
Thank you.
You've got a little bit left.
No,
No, your time is done. That wasn't for you.
Sorry.
Sorry. You still have some time.
My career was in reading, and I just want to say from the last person who spoke that scientific-based reading instruction has been available to schools since the 80s. No child should be in 3rd grade and not be able to read. Who purchases programs and materials? It is not the school teachers. It is not the teachers who purchase programs. It is the administrators. And now the government is forcing schools to adopt scientific-based reading instruction, which I have seen work with my own children, grandchildren, and in schools across the country. And so I believe that, that's me.
That's you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shelley Frost is up. Shelley. And then I have CJ as our last speaker.
One more speaker.
Oh, I have, well, so who do I have?
Ms. Johnson.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So Shelley, and then I have one more after that as CJ's on deck. Okay.
So y'all know who I am then.
You're Shelley, I assume, right?
I'm from the town of Northwood, yes. I'm a licensed professional engineer, a past paraprofessional, a licensed geologist. And I'm coming here to talk about the changes to, the proposed changes to ED 306, excuse me, the overhaul. And as one of the concerns that I have are the changing definitions and terminology to open the door for the unbundling of public schools. So I think you have a big job ahead of you to decide what's an acceptable learning element and what is not, as evidenced by these hours of testimony today. So we don't want to commoditize our schools, and yet we do need to make them as flexible as possible. My concerns about opening up our schools to online education is that we have a standard to apply to the content for any extracurricular, any online content, so that you can be sure that it meets standards, that it's unbiased, that it's equally representative, and so on and so forth. So not just PragerU, but any content that comes before you. I was pretty disturbed to see how the proposed changes to ED 306 got program elements. 306.48 changes language from specific minimum standards to it just removes the minimum standards for learning resources, just crosses them out. 306.48, rather than having specific, very specific performance standards, if you will. I'll give you an example under sciences and education, from being able to plan, design, produce, or use measuring instruments, jigs, fixtures, and templates to control, test, and assess parts of a technological process. Replaces it with kind of boilerplate language saying aligned to state and national standards. There are hundreds of lines of specific goals for the programs that are simply crossed out and replaced with aligned to state and national standards. And that's very disturbing to me. And this happened throughout, from Arts 306.31 to World Language Program 306.48. It requires the adoption, the changes to 306 require the adoption of personal learning plans. I know from my time in the schools that the personal learning plans for special education create a lot of extra time and effort.
Ms. Frost?
Yes.
I apologize, the clock has run.
Oh, there we go.
Mine was a little off of that one, so
Okay.
sorry, but it.
I'll say thank you, and please remember to include equity and student protections.
Do you have written comments that you could either
I
email or
will
leave with us?
provide written
That would be
comments.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Excuse me, Chairman, I do have one more late sign up, I don't know.
Okay, if it's one more, we'll get them in.
Michael Strand from Bedford.
Well, we have, first of all, we have
Well,
CJ.
we'll take Michael Strand, then we can do that one.
It's,
Is Michael Strand here?
Why would you change the order?
yeah,
And
well,
then we have, okay, we do it, okay, so.
Keep the order.
Is
Okay,
CJ,
okay,
I
so
didn't see
CJ
CJ Pearson.
I know,
CJ
exactly.
Oh,
Okay,
CJ's right there.
Okay.
Does he want her to wrap up?
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank the members of the board and the commissioner for your patience today and your time in deliberating about this proposal. There has been a lot of conversation about politics today, but I think it should really be about education. And for that purpose, I'm going to speak to you from the perspective of a 21-year-old. I wish, and as a 21-year-old who isn't too far away from graduating high school myself, I wish that when I was in school, I had the opportunity to learn financial literacy. When I talk to my peers and I talk to people my age, we talk about all the things that we learn, and few and far between it was about how to balance a checkbook, how to pay taxes, how to actually be a contributing member of society. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with this new program here. And we are incredibly excited that you guys are considering this and moving into a place where you're allowing students not only to take control of their own destiny, but to prepare to live a fruitful life that sets them onto a path of financial freedom. That's what education is supposed to be all about. But also, I know that New Hampshire is a state that places a lot of value on freedom, and rightfully so. This is the live free or die state. And by some comments that you heard today, you might think that this was a mandate, but this isn't a mandate. This is an opportunity for parents to choose, for students to choose, if they want to take a PragerU course. And if they choose to, we believe in the benefits and the merits of those courses, as has been spoken to by many people who have sat here today. But I believe that the parents of New Hampshire have more than enough capability to decide whether or not to allow PragerU into their homes, whether or not to allow PragerU into their schools. And I believe that they should have the choice to make that decision for themselves and their family. Because I've heard some people talk about indoctrination today, but that's not what we're trying to do. Indoctrination is the idea that you show one point of view, one side of the argument. We just want to present the other. And that's not actually what this is even about. This is about basic financial literacy that, again, enables America's young people to go down a path of financial freedom and success. And we would appreciate your support and your vote. Thank you so much.
And CJ, just for the record,
Could you identify your affiliation?
Sir, I'm
Sorry.
Yeah, you're with PragerU.
Yes, I'm PragerU.
Okay, and so we have one more, Mr. Strand.
Thank you for the opportunity to join the party late.
And what was just for the record, your name?
Yes, my name is Michael Strand. I'm from Bedford. I'm a Bedford town councilor, although that's probably not relevant here. More importantly, I'm the father to a fourth grader at Bedford Memorial, former educator myself, and the son of both a Catholic school principal and part-time 20-plus year special educator who is also a bookkeeper and a female business owner. Couple things. I can assure you, number one, the Florida test scores are not higher than New Hampshire unless the testing mechanisms are compromised. As a parent, I've had the best luck with my daughter, who is also a high-performing student, when I tell her the truth. And that is my most fundamental concern with the content in PragerU. Madison, we heard a comment earlier about concerns from the founding fathers. And I'd love to see content that included some of the founding mothers as well in our country's history. And I'll get to why that's relevant. Madison actually warned about minority factions unduly controlling the populace. That's also very relevant here. Additional facts. While the course and curriculum in question are just a basic financial literacy course as required by state law, the fight is clearly on principle, as we've heard over and over today. PragerU was founded by a political talk show host. You've heard that many times today. No background in education. It's an outright political agenda to manipulate and persuade children based on his own political ideology. And I have some concerns that some of that ideology might be shared by members of the board, which I would hope is not the case. Why would we spend our public taxpayer dollars on a highly controversial politicized vendor that would undermine our great public schools and make New Hampshire appear to be many things which I promise you we are not? Why not just put that money back into the classroom where it belongs? Incentivize our teachers to develop engaging, project-based finance literacy content that kids will carry with them for a lifetime. I can remember being a junior, senior in high school and having to run a stock portfolio for fun. That's the stuff you remember, not 5-minute clips with God knows what ads in between. We already have an approved curriculum vendor for online financial literacy courses run by apolitical, accredited education professionals. If allowed to get that sneaky foot in the door, what comes next from Prager? You've heard this before today. Are we talking about alt-right history curriculum where the Civil War wasn't actually about slavery, or slavery wasn't that bad, or that enslaved persons somehow benefited from multi-generational state-sanctioned physical, psychological, and emotional torture? That's a hard truth, but it's one we should tell in this country. We can have a debate over states' rights versus slavery as causal factors for the Civil War, but that should be a debate that happens in the classroom, not a propaganda piece. I'll remind the board coming back to this that such a compromised curriculum that we foresee coming down the road if Prager is allowed to meddle in our public schools and our kids' education, would undermine the fact that New Hampshire was also the home base for the abolitionist movement and the advent of public schools. This is home base for public schools. To suggest that we have a leftist curriculum right now is absurd. Nobody's teaching Marx to fourth graders. not even teaching in high school.
Your time's up, Mr.
I would urge you
So
to
can I-
not move forward with this.
Mr. Zhang, can I ask you a question?
Think of the unintended consequences.
You can say no, but can I ask you a question? Sure. As a member of the Bedford School Board?
I'm not a member of the school board.
Oh, I thought you said you were.
Town council.
Town council, I apologize.
Not relevant here, I'm here as a dad.
Got you. Yeah, I thought, okay. Then maybe you can't answer this question, but we had a previous speaker who testified that Bedford's own personal finance curriculum included a book by Barbara Ehrenreich, who is self-described socialist feminist. And that was a required reading for Bedford's personal finance course. I just wonder what your thoughts were, if you knew anything about it.
I'm not aware of that, to be very blunt and honest with you. I don't have a high school board, I haven't looked much at the high school curriculum. But I would, I guess, ask, if we're talking about different voices and vantage points, is that included in the actual content, or are we just talking about the personal beliefs and background of the person involved? That could also be a viable question to ask here in terms of the talk show host who developed this curriculum. To compare the founder of PragerU to her, I think would be a far cry and a false equivalency also in terms of academic background, regardless of personal beliefs. If we're talking about qualification also, I think,
So you're saying that it is okay that they require her to read a blatantly Marxist, which is a political idea, because the person was accredited? Is that what you're saying?
I think kids should read everything.
Yes or no?
That's not a yes or no question.
It is a yes or no question. Do you think that it was appropriate for Bedford to have a Marxist, a self-acclaimed Marxist, which is a political identity, a political ideology, have required reading in a financial course? Yes or no? Is that appropriate?
And it's a finance course.
Yes. Is it appropriate? Yes or no?
But again, I'm trying to clarify.
It's a
the question.
financial literacy
It's a
course
financial
with
literacy
required
course.
reading, written by a self-described Marxist, in which those ideas are in the book.
Would
So-
Adam Smith be appropriate?
I'm just asking the speaker here, yes or no, is that appropriate?
Were economics covered in the finance course?
Yes or no, is it appropriate for?
All right, I think we're not, Ryan, I think we're gonna avoid getting into conversation here.
So finish this public comment. Yeah, not here to debate.
Yeah,
Sorry, guys.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I think that all economic theory should be covered if it's a course on economics. If it's a hands-on financial literacy course, then I don't understand.
Yeah, and I just wondered, I just didn't know if you knew anything about that particular.
No, I didn't.
That's all right.
I appreciate the question.
Sure, all right.
Thanks, guys.
So everybody, first of all, before we get on, that was the last of our list. And just for the record, I think Barbara Ehrenreich describes herself as a socialist feminist, not a Marxist, I think. I know she used that.
It's all political.
Anyway, that being aside, I just want to personally, as chair of the board, thank everyone who testified today. Very civil, we had a great flow of folks coming. I really appreciate that everybody strove to stick to the time limits and share your thoughts. So thank you to everybody who came. I thought it was great. We're going to take a break, and then we have an agenda that we have to start. And the beginning of that agenda, is non-public sessions. All right, school administrative spotlight first, then we're going to non-public session. Just so everybody knows, we will probably take the non-public sessions, I think, in a different room so that you can stay, rather than ask you to move. I think that's probably how we do it. But if we can. Anyway, we may have to ask you to move to the non-public sessions. Let me correct my statement. All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you all so much. Roll call. Right.
Yes.
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 Okay.
If not.
Summary of withdrawn cases is information only. We don't get back on that.
Motion to, do we seal all the minutes?
Yes.
Do we make a motion to go back into non-public?
That's right.
That's already done.
No, it wasn't your one, we did that before
We
we
had to do that before we came back.
I got that.
Okay, so we are up to Office of Charter Schools. Oh, Tal's not here.
today.
Okay. We have a Lionheart Public Charter School Charter Amendment.
Yes. I'm Casey Silva. I'm from the Office of Charter Schools. I'm filling in for Tal today because he's out of town. I did have a member of Lionheart with me, but they just didn't say they had another commitment. But in summary, they've submitted to you an application to amend their charter to add 20 seats. They've experienced a higher than they anticipated retention rate, which is great, at 93%. They have available space in their building to add the 20 additional seats, and they provided a breakdown on page 4 of how that would work for each grade. And again, they have a wait list of about 50 students.
Any discussion?
What's the total number right now, enrollment right now?
I
And-
It's, I think it's in the.
276.
Yes,
Yeah.
276. Yep.
Very strong considering
Oh, yeah.
a new school. Yeah. Any discussion or motion?
I just had some trepidation on class size.
I think that was addressed in the application. I'd have to scroll back through.
They do have, like K through 4 would be 20 students per class, 22 in grade 5, and 24 in grade 6.
I thought it was 26, okay.
Do you have any statistics on the wait list itself?
On what grades they are, I don't.
Or in total?
About 50 is what I
About 50,
told you.
okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts?
Have a motion.
Okay.
I move that the State Board of Education approve the charter amendment of Lionheart Academy Chartered Public School.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vote, yes?
Am I? You're able to vote.
You're able to vote on it.
I'm able to vote?
You're able to vote on this one, yeah.
Okay, thank you, I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Chairman abstains. All right.
Approved.
Learn Everywhere Program Annual Report, is Tim here?
Yes.
All right.
Always hold.
Good afternoon, Tim Carney, Administrator of Education Pathways, presenting the annual Learn Everywhere report to the board per the rules. This is for the period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, so it doesn't include this summer. We've had a number of programs new programs that we're awarding certificates this summer, but that's not included sure here.
Yeah, I happened to be at the Monero Academy when they granted their first, when they had their first Learn Everywhere graduate, which was pretty fun. Anybody have any questions for Tim? Anything you want to
I have
explain or context?
I have a few questions.
Sure.
So we only see that there's about 32 students participating in the Learn Everywhere programs total. Do we know the difference of how many students participate in traditional ELO programs?
I don't know. It would be significantly lower in
A lot
ELOs.
more. So I guess, we've been kind of asking the question of how do we spread what Learn Everywhere is trying to do? How do we get more students involved in it? And what's been your experience about some of the reasons why the program maybe isn't being adopted, or we see some of the lower attendance here?
I think one of the struggles we have is that the Department of Education doesn't have a direct connection to parents and students. Those are our clients, if you will. The schools do, but Learn Everywhere is outside of schools currently. And so I think as we build the program and get more grassroots involvements and parents start talking to other parents, the word about Learn Everywhere will grow. And I think that's how the program will expand as far as participation. I am looking at some very large organizations that have a lot of family activities, and if we are able to get them into the program, then we can use that as a vehicle to do presentations to those large groups of families, be available at some of their events with Learn Everywhere booth, and spread the word that way. It would be very helpful.
So just lack of awareness, lack of the program,
Yes.
just that first touch point with families is part of it.
Yeah.
So can I also just comment on that for a moment, just to add another dimension to that, because I think you're accurate, Tim, in terms of what you're describing, but I don't want to lose sight, you know how you have mission creep and you miss what we're after. I mean, the goal here is to make this available. This is a choice program. And so if you look over the programs, there are hundreds of students who are participating in these programs, whether it is the New Hampshire Academy of Science, or Smith at Kaido has a whole bunch of kids, North Maine Music, Boys and Girls Club, First Robotic, there's hundreds of kids participating. So what you're seeing are those students who are saying, I want to do this and then seek high school credit. Because remember, it's a both and. So you could have a kid who's like, I'm going to be on the first robotics kit, but I want to take the engineering class in school. Right? So it's a both and. We're not excluding people. So these programs are succeeding. The question is, it's a choice program, and someone's saying based on that, I wanna seek credit from my participation in there, but they don't have to do that.
Understood.
Yeah.
And
So I just wanna make sure that we're clear about that. You know,
Yeah.
the programs are successful and the kids are learning, the question is whether they decide that they wanna pursue seeking credit or not.
Yeah, I
Appreciate
think a perfect example of that is the Russian School of Mathematics. I think if you reviewed their report, they indicated they had a large number of students who were eligible to receive certificates, they just chose not to.
And I think, something you had talked about before, I think it was last year when we had this report, is that we don't have a marketing budget for Learn Everywhere. So
Correct.
there's a lot of people who've never heard of it, who don't know about it. So they're not out there actively necessarily seeking. It might be enrolled in Friends Forever International, and then at that point they learn, hey, here's an option.
Right.
I was actually at a neighborhood kind of dinner party thing last month, and a parent came up to me, just at random, somebody I just casually know, and said, hey, thanks for Learn Everywhere. I was, wait, what? And they had a kid who did Win Arrows this summer, and did aviation engineering. And now, they're not in high school, so he's not gonna be able to apply for that, which he didn't quite, but
Well, they can, and we'll carry forward.
well, right, but he's like, they love the Win Arrow program so much, they're going to go back.
Right.
And at some point, they'll probably, apply for a credit there, but they didn't know about Learn Everywhere until they read the program itself, and so, you can, if you want, you can apply for us. So, yeah, there's a bit of a marketing, information lag for sure. Okay, any questions for Tim? Sure. All right. Now we have Army. Is anybody here from Army? Are they online?
Kathleen was hanging on, again, the meeting got so stretched that,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if she stayed or not.
Kathleen Loudspeaker or Panama?
Panama, yeah. Oh, great, she's still here.
Okay, let's see.
Probably doing the dishes.
Oh, she's here. She's sending a little message.
All right. So this is a request to approve an initial application from the Advanced Regenerative Manufacturing Institute for Learn Everywhere program. And Kathleen, if you're available, she can introduce herself and maybe explain the program a little bit.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. My name is Kathleen Hannibal. I'm a programs manager here at Army in Manchester, New Hampshire. And we would like to be part of the Learn Everywhere program to promote our program BioTrack. So a little bit of background about Army. Our mission is to seek and enable the scalable, consistent, and cost-effective manufacturing of cells, tissues, and organs to benefit existing industries and grow new ones. As part of this effort, Army is working to close educational skills gaps in tissue engineering and organ manufacturing through accessible educational training opportunities such as the one presented today. BioFab USA is a program of Army in partnership with more than 170 members, including companies, academic institutions, and not-for-profit organizations. The mission of BioFab USA is to bring together the fundamental tenets of good manufacturing practices and the science of regenerative medicine to create regenerative manufacturing and the trained and ready workforce necessary for that manufacturing. BioTrack is one program to build that workforce. We find that most students and parents are not aware of biofabrication or biomanufacturing, and therefore it is not part of their post-high school planning or discussion. There are very limited dedicated college programs in biofabrication specifically, but our program promotes awareness of the industry, diverse career and training pathways, which may be college track or other opportunities, including our new registered apprenticeship program. The traditional 25 to 30 hour BioTrack program is offered to schools, and we've reached more than 1,000 students already. And this is a multi-week co-teaching program that is embedded within school science classes such as biology, anatomy and physiology, and we're also working with CTE programs. The Learn Everywhere Extended Learning Opportunity Program is a model that is actually the Army BioFab Micro Internship. This is our collaboration with VLAX that is offered as a 30-hour week-long summer or school break workshop or 24-hour after-school ELO program. This is not a traditional work internship. It's a bit of a misnomer in the name there, but that's VLAX is a program that sort of best suited what we wanted to offer. In this program, students develop an awareness about diverse skill sets and career opportunities needed to sustain and grow this industry. The biocheck programs are aligned to the NGSS and career standards. Through VLAX, students earn a quarter credit for career exploration. So with that, I'm happy to take your questions.
I guess I'm a little confused with the presentation. If this is currently a VLAX class, what's the added benefit of making it also a Learn Everywhere class? Because if they are taking it through VLAX, won't they get credit for it through VLAX?
They can get it through VLAX. Some of our students also get it through their school districts. So what we want to do is we're hoping to promote awareness for this program that students can access it.
So it's another point of access.
It's like you can have an ELO, and they can come into it from a school district ELO, a Learn Everywhere ELO, right? VLAX could be offering it, so.
And so are the assessments the same? So is the whole thing actually done through VLAX, and you get the VLAX assessments? There's nothing that changes in the Learn Everywhere version?
So this is actually done in person. Most of your VLAX courses are online or virtual. This is an in-person program. That's why we offered it. Our first program was piloted last summer, and we had 9 students in that program. And they came to our facility, met with some of our staff, toured our facility, and got to learn about the different career pathways and so forth in this industry. So a little bit different than being just a VLAX online course because it is in person.
Yeah, that's what it looked like from the application, so the VLAX thing that you were talking about threw me a little bit. All right. So and we had emailed and I tried to get some of the assessments, and I got some of the assessment materials, but it wasn't really complete. Can you just walk us through how you assess at the end whether they're meeting the competencies?
Sure. So this is the summative assessment is their final presentation, which is a pitch presentation to a panelist of judges. Generally, what the students will do is create a PowerPoint deck, and throughout the sessions, they are doing different formative assessments that make sure they are understanding the different phases of the program, the different portions of understanding what it means to create a tissue edited medical product, what it means to create a business plan for your company that is creating that product, and their presentation skills. They have a rubric that guides them through that, but their presentation reflects their understanding. They're also questioned by the panelists, and so that challenges their understanding of the material as well. Another reflection of that could be a poster presentation, where they're also providing a rubric where they are presenting what they learned throughout the course. And generally, we leave it to the teachers to do some of the formative assessments and to record that information.
Yeah, I saw that. Chart on page 3. Anybody have any further questions?
I have one. On section 11, it talks about students' acceptance into this 24-hour course requires the completed application, parental approval, parent approval, and interview. What's that interview process? What are you guys sort of looking for in that process?
Dedicated interest in the program, in biofabrication, and learning about different career pathways in that industry. And a big part of that has become their commitment to being focused in that classroom. A big challenge in some of the classes when we go into schools is students using a phone, not really paying attention, so we want to make sure students are motivated to be there.
Thank you.
Tim, just for clarification, how much of a credit is this?
1 quarter credit.
All right, that's what go ahead.
I move that the State Board of Education approve the Advanced Regenerative Manufacturing Institute Incorporated Learn Everywhere initial application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Angela, great. All right. PragerU.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. PragerU
Thank
kids,
you.
we need a vote to pull this off the table.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, PragerU kids application is before us. Any discussion?
Go see your friend.
Yep, I'm gonna just.
Oh, Brandon's here online.
Yes, yeah, he indicated you may have a presentation
Okay.
as well.
Oops, hold on to it. We should be coming back in a minute. He has to rejoin as a panelist, it takes him a minute, I can see it happening.
Is he also?
He should be.
Okay. Hi Brandon, can you hear him?
Hello, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you. So again, we're here, oh, you need to vote to take it off.
It's already off.
It is, oh,
Yep.
So again, requesting approval of the PragerU Kids Learn Everywhere program in financial literacy.
So Brandon, did you have any presentation or any extra info for us?
Yeah, first, thank you for allowing me to be with you this afternoon and to review our application again. I wanted to say a few comments about some of the concerns from the last meeting and how we've addressed those. I do have some slides, if the board wants to, that are basically screenshots of the new website and learning platform, if that's helpful for everyone. I sent those as supporting material to the board with our formative and summative assessments, and so we could do that if like. Some of the concerns that have been presented in the public comments, both at the last meeting and the current meeting, I think I don't want to spend time rehashing all those, but in general, they're aimed at discrediting PragerU and not specifically the Learn Everywhere program. I think as we discussed at the board last meeting, the main concern that the board had was with regard to the platform being used and then the assessment depths, in particular for Learn Everywhere. And so we've addressed those by having a standalone website and a learning management system that's attached to that, that puts all of the cash course content related to the program in one easy place. It helps the students to navigate directly through and allows them to take the assessment questions in pursuit of that final assessment and certificate. And so we believe that we've met the needs and asks of the board for that. The assessment depths, and we've taken a look at how we've been doing those and making sure that we're reaching different levels of the Bloom's taxonomy and having variety in the questions. And so there are application level questions that ask students to evaluate scenarios, do calculations, in conjunction with other questions that would be more of a remember or learning the terminology of financial literacy. And I would ask the board just to consider that even the people standing against our application have all agreed that the content is excellent and the materials of high quality, and the assessments now are matching with that. And so we believe we've addressed both of those things. Finally, I would just say that the Learn Everywhere mission, and just ask the board to consider our application in lines with the mission of Learn Everywhere and the parameters of Learn Everywhere, which is to capture all students' learning and give students credit for it. And with regard to Cash Course, in particular, our Cash Course series has been viewed over 3.5 million times across the United States in every state and the District of Columbia. Our top episode is the student loans episode. It's been viewed 550,000 times in and of itself. And what we're asking the state board to do is that recognize that credit for the 0.5 credits. And looking at the FIT money course that's already been approved, we believe that we're double the length and viewing content and also in questions, and the depths. I've reviewed a number of financial literacy courses in the state of New Hampshire, the assessments that are being taken, and we believe we're on par. In particular with Fit Money, which is already an approved course, our assessments are more rigorous than the ones on there. It's approved for 0.25. We believe that we're applicable for the 0.5 credit. And so I'm here for any questions the board would have. I thank you again for your time and your review of the application. And if you'd like to see screenshots of the program that we got, I'd be happy to share my screen and walk through those.
Hi, it's probably still good morning. Good morning. I've gone to the website, I've gone to the sign up page, and I can either sign up with an email or continue with Teachable. I'm not familiar with what Teachable is. Could you share that, please?
Yeah, Teachable is a basic learning management system that we use as a platform to host the video and assessments and to help navigate the course in a logical manner, and then provide the grading aspect that helps students to unlock new courses and provide the assessment and the grading component.
So my concern is, evolves around the provision of an email and what ultimately might happen with that email. If I were to continue with Teachable, is my personal information, does it remain personal, or do I become part of a larger database? And I guess what
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
I'm driving at is that I think the future use of that email should be something that a family has to sign off on.
That's an excellent question. When we first applied, our standard practice for PragerU and our website is not collecting data. And so when we first applied, we had it that way, where we were not collecting an email or any data, but in order to provide a learning management system and the grading functionality and associating that with a certificate, that's a requirement in order to be able to access a program like that. So it's not our intention to collect emails beyond the scope of creating an account and functioning as a learning management system for this program. It's certainly possible. We'd have to look at the technical aspects of what we'll be able to do, but it's certainly possible to ask for parental permission for signing up or something like that at the sign-up stage.
I would just like to see a protection around the use of the email beyond the course.
It is notable too, as well, that on the Teachable website, when you go to sign up, that it is optional and it is an opt-in for PragerU to send you emails or promotions or news. It's not only not selected, but it specifically says optional on there, so it does give you, it is actually an opt-in service to receive any additional promotion, whereas most sites in general are actually opt-out. You have to remove yourself from receiving those benefits. Prager is actually the opposite way, so they actually give you a lot more freedom than most other websites do.
And the goal here was for the assessments to be able to do the assessments and send certificates to the students, because otherwise we don't have any way of connecting the student to the assessment.
All that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's just, does the email get out of the domain?
Only if they want to.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
Any other questions for Brandon?
No, questions, but let's have a
Discussion, yeah, go ahead.
So just go through a couple of things. We heard a lot of public comment today. Just gonna start off with one of the particular comments that we heard. Somebody had said, that if this board had heard, and this is their words, not mine, but if this board had been entertaining a program with a quote-unquote woke agenda, we would come out a different way. And I just want to point out, for anybody who wants to, you can go into the public materials and you could look at a host of programs and charter schools that we've approved with things that I deeply disagree with, because I trust parents to make good calls for their kids more than I trust the government to. And so that's the first thing. So the idea that that I personally, and I'll speak for myself, would only approve things that I agree with is wrong. I also teach, And I routinely encourage students to read things from the ACLU, which turns out historically is a free speech advocate, and then also places like the Constitutional Law Society and so on. You know, my general feeling about these kinds of things is if you actually believe the things you believe in, then you should be willing to have them tested. Second, the program, the only students who would see this material, if in the chance that you found it objectionable, the students whose parents agreed to let them do it. And for the record, they're their kids. I heard a lot of people say our kids today. I don't actually share my kids with anybody but my wife. There are no our kids, they're my kids, and they'll see the content that I want them to see. PragerU, this may come as a shock, but PragerU's material, like a lot of the progressive and liberal things we heard during public comment this morning, is mainstream political thought in this country. About half the country, maybe more, agrees with the things that are on the PragerU website, lots of material on the PragerU website. The cash course is actually completely neutral, but we heard a lot about the possibility that someone might trip and fall into other PragerU material. That's between them and their parent. Again, material on the PragerU website is mainstream political thought in this country. Another important thing, at least at the school where I go, or when my kids go, when you walk in, they have this thing, it says 5 competencies that support high quality learning. And one of them is to agree and disagree respectfully to advance the exchange of ideas. And that cannot happen if we censor out half the ideas, what half of this country believes. Nothing about this program upends local control. First of all, Learn Everywhere was created through the democratic process. It went through bicameralism and presentment in this state. This board is seated through the democratic process, and there is nothing in the world more local than parents making decisions for their own children. As an aside, I appreciate that PragerU was willing to make another website. I don't think it was necessary. You can disagree with PragerU's material. You can have disagreements about points of history. But there's, again, nothing on that website that I've ever come across that I would deem outside the mainstream. Again, reasonable minds can disagree about these things. I have great discussions with my colleagues where I work and my friends whose political thoughts about the world range. So I'm going to support the program and allow parents to make decisions for their students. That's it.
Any other discussions?
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So I've had people reach out and I think follow-on questions just from this morning real quick. What is the target age this is designed for? Because I know that there's some questions that were asked of me that I just want to make sure that we get clarity on, is this designed specifically for high schoolers or a broader range? Not the Learn Everywhere program, but the content of the cash course specifically.
Thank you for the question. Cash course is designed for high school level curriculum. In fact, one of the people who spoke this morning worked for Jumpstart Coalition, and in fact, we used Jumpstart Coalition financial literacy standards in the preparation of the content. So that's high school level financial literacy educational standards, and that's what the content is built off of and structured. And so it fits very well within a personal finance high school course. On our website, our content for media purposes is broken down into broader ranges. And so this would sit in the 6+ category on our main website, but the educational content and standards that are built into the program are high school standards.
Okay, and the Jumpstart standards are also what the Fit Money program is aligned to as well. So it's
Correct. Correct.
So,
They're full standards.
There was also just a real quick follow on Ann's question on emails. There was a lot of comments this morning about people going to the site and all of a sudden getting emails. Is there any chance someone would get sent an email outside of certification of completion of this program through what has been set up for the Learn Everywhere program?
Yeah, great question. Thank you again. So the email system that's set up with Teachable is directed at the administration of the course. And so there's no chance there that we would use that material or data. In fact, it's against our organizational ethos. It's not, we do not collect data through our sites, and that's how we set up the original application to begin with for that purpose. It's only as a requirement of having an LMS and something that's standalone that would facilitate the needs of the board that we've added that. And so there, through that system, there would not be emails and other things. The only caveat to that would be is if somebody opts in to PragerU email list or some other capacity through our main website, that they would have access to that.
I just real quick want to point out, I appreciate the concern, and I would encourage parents to be involved and take a look at these things. But a lot, I don't want to say all, but I want to say a significant number of schools in this state use Google Classroom, which is the largest consumer of information about humans in the world, without any concerns being brought to anybody's attention. So, you know, I hear the concern, but
well, I'll expand on that. Learn Everywhere has over a dozen partners that we
18 or
19. Yeah. Do we have the same scrutiny? Are we asking? I'm all about consistency here. You know, not to single any one partner out. Do we drill down on their emails? Do we ask if they do the Boy Scouts send emails to people? Are we double and triple checking this? Are we asking that each of these 18 create a separate website and firewall their content or anything else that could possibly? I think this in and of itself, we're going down a slippery slope. There are vendors that we use on a statewide basis, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is a partnership with a vendor, as stated multiple times, on a volunteer basis through parental choice. Parental choice. But we have vendors throughout the state, and Brain Pop is one of them, which is somewhat controversial. Some people like it, some people don't. It has a lot of great videos. Some of them are not. Some of them draw similar reactions to what we saw here today. Yet they're out there in the community and parents are making choices. I support that. I just don't want to go down a path, in my own opinion, where we're singling out Prager, or we're singling out the Boy Scouts, or we're singling out anyone we quote unquote might take issue with something else that they can step into. If it's parental choice, I'm a full supporter of that. We are not mandating anything in this, and I just want to be consistent.
And I'll just step in for those watching at home and the reporters. Boy Scouts are not a Learn Everywhere program. Boys and Girls Club are.
Thank you very much for
Just wanted to
clarifying
make
that, Mr. Chair.
Jim, sorry, can I say something, Drew?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just asking that question more as a clarification of things that were said this morning, whether or not they were accurate or not to hold Prager to a higher standard. I do think that other things that were said were like a contract with, or a vendor, or this is a process of approving a Learn Everywhere provider. I do not see this as creating a vendor out of Prager University, PragerU, as much as certifying that this program will be a Learn Everywhere program. So I think that there was more weight in the words vendor and contract and stuff, not to call you out or anything, Jim, but I think that was used a lot this morning, and I think that was creating more weight to the relationship that I think certifying Learn Everywhere program eats in and of itself, whether it's PragerU or BitMoney or any other ones. And also, a lot of people use the slippery slope and nose under the tent analogy this morning. That is a logical fallacy, right? I turn my philosophy 101. Slippery slope there is no slippery slope. It is a series of decisions. So there's a lot of inference that now it's we're letting someone like the fox into the hen house. But ultimately, we are approving a program and not everything else that's associated with any Learn Everywhere provider. So I think that the decision is really just about the cash course, even though it was inferred that it was about like the broader Prager and PragerU umbrella this morning, which I think is just factually inaccurate. And for like, it should be inferred that like, we're now gonna like, anytime we approve a Learn Everywhere program, anything associated with that organization is let in the door is just, I think it's wrong.
Yeah, and I think your point about the terminology is important. There's been a lot of misinformation spread about what Learn Everywhere is and the relationship between Learn Everywhere program and a program that is submitted to Learn Everywhere, a course that is submitted. There's no contract. It's not really a partnership, and there's no money. Nobody's paying PragerU if this gets approved. Learn Everywhere programs are not paid. No taxpayer money, no state of New Hampshire money, none of your local school money would go to any Learn Everywhere program. That is incorrect, and I see that come up in a lot of the comments all the time. It's not a contract with PragerU, not a payment to anybody. There's no taxpayer money involved, and I think that's just a basic level of understanding that is confusing a lot, or misunderstanding is confusing a lot of people.
So can I have one more thing here?
Yeah.
So I do get concerned about like maybe precedent setting though around an ideological litmus test for who a Learn Everywhere provider could be, or like who like potentially could like provide any sort of education for like a teacher, right? Like that, like how far are we willing to say, not us, but like are we being asked to go to say there has to be some sort of like ideological test applied to anyone that wants to become a Learn Everywhere provider, regardless of the content in the program. And the lack of political bias within the content of that program. So, and personally, ultimately, I think we should have a broader ideological set of, or ideologically inspired group of providers within Learn Everywhere. I would love, like people brought up like the Socialist Party or other like, other organizations that are more progressive. I would love if there were applications for those within Learn Everywhere. I think the only way we build critical thinking is through seeing a variety of perspectives on things. When I was a cadet back at the academy, required reading was the Communist Manifesto, and it's not as if like the Red Army was trying to infiltrate our troops. It was because we required that as critical to build critical thinking applications. So there's a lot. I think a lot of red herrings about like we can't have certain ideologies here, as opposed to like let's have as broad of a conversation on many ideologies as possible.
Phil went to West Point, by the way. So I would like to make a motion. I hear you, Brandon, about the differences between this and Fit Money. I went back and I reviewed both, and I just remain unconvinced that this is a half credit course. To me, it's closer to Fit Money's quarter credit. There's a lot of overlap there for what they teach. It is a little bit longer. The assessments cover a lot of stuff. But I still think it's closer to the quarter credit, and I don't know what you guys think, but I just would like to put that on the table as a motion to amend this application to make it a quarter credit. And I don't know if anybody agrees with that or not, so we can discuss it. But that's just where I am.
I felt fine with it based on other things that we've approved at a half.
I'm okay with a half credit for this. I am a little concerned if we include in the approval or the amendment the requirement to firewall. To me, that's setting a precedent.
Well, I don't think we required it, they've offered it.
Okay.
So they've offered.
It's already part of the
It's already part of the program that they build a separate standalone website for these courses. That is already in the application, so it's not. So I'm putting out my motion. I don't have a second. So anybody?
I'll second.
That's for the quarter credit. So if you
sorry.
want to, so is it just me?
Oh, not for this, not for
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
all
I apologize.
All right. So I'm just a quarter credit for me. Everybody
Yeah,
thinks it's a
to
half
me,
credit.
it meets a half credit. We've talked about in the last meeting the financial literacy as a way to understand terms, knowledge, and the context of making a financial decision. It certainly does give it that full context to me. They have formative assessments, they have summative assessments. In this subject matter with a half credit, it seems applicable. And if I can also offer my comments before the vote, essentially what we heard as pushback today was yes about the flavor of PragerU, but the overall dish was about being opposed to choice. And that's the most interesting part of today's conversation, is that if particular groups are not interested in the flavor of an option, then the best thing to do is not participate in that option. And you'll have another group of people who will think that this is the best option for their children to participate in financial literacy. It's just simply that black and white. And the fact that it's turned into this large event, and don't get me wrong, I love sharing the room with all these great folks and media personalities and so on. The reality is that this is a program that offers choice in a classroom in a context that students are not performing at grade level for the most part. And I know that we have dedicated teachers, administrators, and professionals. I know that because I visit schools. I'm on the Teacher of the Year committee, and I love to serve on it for the past 3 years. And so I know that our teachers wake up every single day with the explicit purpose of making our students successful in the classroom and in life. And to those teachers' respect, they spend time out of their day during the school day to come and testify in front of us today. However, at the same time, I do know that there's a tone by which proponents of public school systems, not outcomes from students in public schools, often rally against choice. And while this isn't a conversation about that philosophical back and forth that we have, Prager University's application is a byproduct of it. And it is also frustrating, first as a Black American, and many other things that I can identify as individuals dictating to me how I should feel about my way of navigating the world and what's the allowed pre-approved narrative of such. As Rich has said, I've approved several programs in charter schools that had content that I certainly didn't think was appropriate. We've had charter schools in front of us who have expressly had materials created by former Black Panther Party members, other groups with explicit political biases, and we've never had the outcry and outturning in the almost 3 years of the State Board of Education's history that I've been on. And so while I love the fact that parents and people are paying attention, it is disheartening that first the misinformation took control, then the hypocrisy of first asking for an open dialogue, but then closing the door on the other side of that dialogue. It does not fit the American tradition. I've heard that these Prager University applications do not fit American values, but as Rich has said, half the country agrees, if not more, with their values. But the reality is that the American value is about classic liberalism, and classic liberalism is live and let live. What we saw today was not live and let live. What we saw today was not an opposition of a program. What we saw today is groups of people being mobilized by political organizations with express purpose to flex political muscle against who they seemed as a political enemy. That's what we saw. What I'm judging this on is a well thought out, well created, well put together, socially and age appropriate program that teaches young people to make smart financial decisions. So that's what I'm gonna cast my vote on today. But that's on the context of there's no pre-written narrative, there's no one way to be Black, brown, man, woman, there's no one way to be an American, and to advertise the view as such is inherently anti-American. And so what I would offer to the 2 hours of public comment that I had today, that I painfully said quiet for, that if my mom was watching, she'd probably think something was wrong with me because that's the longest I've ever been quiet while I was awake. It's very just frustrating to live in a world that because you are a conservative or you lean right on a political spectrum, that your views are seen as inherently bigoted or racist or misogynist. And the last piece that I'll opine about this is I also find it very interesting as a Black member of this board, as I believe one of the first Black members of this board, as the youngest member of this board, as an active political leader in this state, as a contributing business owner in this state that deals products that we sell across the country. I work in a company that employs over 100 people in this state. I'd like to say that even though I'm from New Orleans, I made my home New Hampshire. For us to get together and then say that we want an open dialogue for everyone, and to sit here and completely attack a whole swath of people's ideals, it just isn't what I signed up for, and it isn't what I think we all want from this. And so I support the Prager University material, not just because I also happen to be a conservative, but because it's good material that teaches kids how to make great decisions. And that's what I think we should all be looking at when we look at all of these programs.
Ryan, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, I Drew initially leaned to it being a quarter credit, and then I thought about the districts in our state that have financial literacy programs, and by and large, they are wealthy districts. And districts that aren't as wealthy and don't have the options or the wherewithal to go and hire someone to teach financial literacy if they don't already have someone who's on board. It puts our students in those districts at an extreme disadvantage to first of all, find a course and take it and satisfy the graduation requirement. I think in fairness to places that have by and large less, that it should be a half credit, and I will support it that way.
Anybody else? So my motion fails for lack of a second for quarter credit.
Move that the State Board of Education approve the PragerU Kids Learn Everywhere initial application.
Second.
Ryan, you got it first? All in favor?
Aye.
Chairman abstains. So,
Aye.
what was that, Phil? I didn't hear Phil's. Was that an aye?
I said aye. I have more to say, but I'll say the aye. I'm sure I'll get the emails like correspond.
All right, so PragerU's application, PragerU Kids passes.
Thank you, Brandon.
We're gonna take a 10-minute break. I know that there's some reporters
Thank you,
who would
Brandon.
like to get some comments from folks. So
Thank
we're gonna
you.
take a very short break and we'll be right back to get to the rules. Rulemaking legislative updates. Okay, we have initial approval response. Let's see. Pet programs.
Before we get to that, I just wanted to add, so we have officially published the program book for approved pet programs, as I promised. So you have the first round of printed publishings of that. And it's also available on the website.
All right.
Thank you.
I know it's so great.
So I had help by Amy Martop, sorry. All right, Julie.
Yeah, so we have, the conditional approval response for ED 601 and ED 602, which, is the definitions and the procedure for approval. Are there any questions?
Any questions on that? Anybody? Motion?
I move that the State Board of Education approve the conditional approval response for ED 601 and ED 602.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm just abstaining.
Aye.
because
For all, I'll
Unless
just assume, okay.
unless I say otherwise. As usual. Okay, B.
The next one is for the conditional approval response for another piece of the ED 600s, which is 607 and 608. This was the section where we truncated and we got rid of 612 and 614, so we've gotten rid of all of those individual program requirements, and they point back to the 500s. So there was one small change in there for the conditional approval response, and I don't know if there are any other questions on that one.
I move that the State Board of Education approve the conditional approval response to re-adopt with amendment ED 607 and ED 608 and repeal ED 612 and ED 614.
Rich second.
Is that
All-
okay?
I think that was.
Yeah. Doesn't count. A lot of trail mix going on.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next couple ones are for
The next one is C, proposed interval for school nurses in response to a statutory change in the last session. This extends the deadline, basically, that had grandfathered in school nurses at a certain degree level. We just put in an interim rule to reflect that extension, so it matches the statute.
All right, so I have a proposal to this one. At least page 4 of the packet, but page 1 of the rule, if you're reading the pages. About under C, starts with B, school nurse 1 shall, school nurse 1 shall be assigned a mentor, licensed as a school nurse 2 or 3. It's my understanding, talking to staff, that is not a requirement in the law. It's something we have had in the rule, it's kind of a holdover from the other one, and these are licensed nurses, they're associate's degree licensed nurses. I don't see any reason whatsoever to make them have a mentor because they're a nurse in the school versus a nurse in the hospital, which they easily could be. So I propose striking D entirely, the requirement that they have a mentor.
I agree with that, just like we always point out, because I love to point it out. Doesn't mean someone can't have a mentor.
Exactly.
It just means the government's not requiring it.
Instead of striking it out, can you just say may instead of shall?
It's
It's just
just
inappropriate to even have in there.
Yeah, I mean, a school could say, hey, would you like a mentor? We'll give you a mentor, but we're not requiring it, so.
Can I just answer the chief question? The Office of Legislative Services does not like the word may.
They hate it.
Okay, so it's either shall or it's not. That's really the extent.
Yeah, so anyway, so my motion is to strike D entirely. That would be D and then 1, 2, 3, 4 below it.
And then just renumber everything, so just taking out that one part.
Yep, so we're just taking out the mentor. I need a second. Anybody?
Second.
Second from Ryan. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
I voted for that
Aye.
since I made the motion.
Not that.
All right. Okay, that's my amendment. Anybody else?
I just have a comment after the fact. I understand the reasons for our measurement because in ESN is very different than an associate's degree in nursing. Not dedication could be equivalent or higher, but the skill level is not the same.
Yeah, see, the thing is, most, you get your associate's degree in nursing, and then you go work as an ER nurse right away. Like, you can get hired at any hospital, any center, any doctor's office. And that,
There's a difference in kind of care versus one.
yeah, it's much more serious and very trauma. So, yeah, so anyway.
Things come from affiliation, medical professions.
Sure, gotcha.
All right, moving on.
No, so we need a motion for the whole thing. Anybody else have any other discussion or any items on school nurse? No. Alright, so we need a motion as amended school nurse.
So moved.
Second from Rich. Hey Angela, we have a motion for school nurse.
Okay.
To approve as amended, made by Ann and seconded by Rich.
Thank you.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright. Computer science teacher.
Yes, the next one also is the result of a statutory change, HB2, tasks the department with utilizing industry-recognized credentials to grant licensing to computer science teachers, and the rule that reflects that change.
Discussion.
I move that the State Board of Education approve the proposed interim rule readopting ED 507.54 relative to certification requirements for computer science educators.
Second.
Second by Ryan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, criminal history records check. Bus monitors.
Again, another statutory change in the legislature. It takes the criminal record checking of bus monitors and places it back at the district level from the department. This was again a statute in the last legislative session.
Discussion, motion.
I motion to approve the initial proposal for ED 504.12 relative to criminal history record checks for transportation monitors.
I need a second.
Second.
Brian, seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
This next one is some updates, to the investigations and disciplinary proceedings. Can I come up?
Diana's here.
Yeah, I thought I
Steve,
saw
can you
her.
just go grab Diana? She's out there.
She can kind of give you a rundown of the changes or give you any questions about, the changes that were made in this proposal. It's you.
So, good afternoon, for the record, Diane Fenton with the Department of Education. In summary, the proposed changes to ED 511, and ED 511 is really the process piece for the Code of Conduct. The Code of Conduct is found in ED 510, but the nuts and bolts, if you will, the process piece, which is a really critical piece in my opinion, is in 511. So 511 at this point is about 7-ish years old. It was passed in 2018 or 2019. And it was brought to the department's attention that those rules could be stronger. And they could be stronger in the sense of really protecting the privacy of educators who have been reported to the department, recognizing that not everything is substantiated, not everything is accurate and true. We felt that the rules as currently written were strong enough, but we were pressed under Right to Know and some agencies that wanted that information. And so what we took the opportunity to clarify and codify our current practice in terms of how we notify superintendents. So for example, we send thank you notes when our process is done. That wasn't in our original rules, right? So we added that and we really wanted to clarify and again codify our current practice as it pertains to reviewing and assessing the complaints and cases that come before the department. And we wanted to strengthen the privacy protection. So what we've done is we've kind of divided our process into 3 individual buckets. The department gets a report or a complaint. Those terms are used synonymously. We get a report or complaint, we review it. If we feel that there's a preponderance of the evidence that there might be, hold on the preponderance of the evidence. If we feel that there might be a code of conduct violation, right, an allegation there, then we move that into a case. And when we make that determination, we are deciding that this is not just an employment issue, that it rises to the level of a possible code of conduct violation. Okay, I'm happy to take any questions as it pertains to that, right? But that's the initial review, that's the initial triage. Is this just an employment matter that the district can handle exclusively, or does it fall within the parameters of the code of conduct as it pertains to the individual's license? So a good example of that would be anything about having a relationship with a child would fall within the code of conduct. But matters such as dress code or classroom management, not an educator not showing up on time, that would be an employment realm. Okay? So once we determine that it's a case, as we review it, we get information to support or dismiss it. We would then, if we have preponderance of the evidence, we would then turn it into an investigation. And at that time, we would put the educator under formal investigation. We send the certified letter, which we have always done, to notify that individual, notify the superintendent, and notify the union that represents that individual.
Any questions?
I have one, it's more just about the language used. There's one on the initial proposal, page 9, and it breaks down the different steps for a certifying agency or another jurisdiction forward. It says step 2I, a credential holder was the subject of, and then it inputs takes out formal investigation, it just says investigation. Why remove formal investigation?
Thank you for the question. I believe that we took out formal because we defined investigation.
Okay, just right at the top.
Right, and we defined investigation as that formal process whereby we're notifying the credential holder that they are under investigation.
So it's just redundant to say formal again.
That was the
there's only one investigation, I don't have
And it
two
is the
types. I don't have
formal
formal or
process.
not formal,
Yeah.
I just haven't
Right,
seen it.
right.
I understand. And then I had one more just language question. Hold on, let me try to find it real quick. Why switch from principal to director? What's the difference in page 2 of the definitions where it defines a career in technical education and it mixes out director and puts principal?
That was actually a change from the last time that these definitions were brought forward, when we did the administrator endorsements, and we brought forward superintendent, assistant superintendent, and all of those. One of the changes was the CTE director was changed to CTE principal.
Okay.
And that's why that was changed here.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Actually, this question for you procedurally, this is an initial proposal put on a readoption, do we still have to, is it still a comment period that we have to?
We'll have a public comment period.
Okay, just making sure, I thought so, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, once, if you choose to approve this today, I'll submit paperwork and we would schedule a public hearing typically for like 2 months out, so it would probably be the November board meeting.
Awesome.
Yep, or later, if we needed to do that, so.
Any other thoughts? Okay.
I motion to approve the initial proposal for ED 501, ED 510.05, and ED 511 relative to investigations and disciplinary proceedings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, CTE agreements.
This next one is the regional CTE agreements. You guys have seen this one a couple of times over the last few months because of the interim rules. This we just received back from OLS with no comments because they've also seen it a few times. And so they didn't have any changes to it from the adopted interim rules. And so, unless anyone has any questions or changes on that one, it's the same text as previously.
I move that the Board of Education approve the final proposal for ED 1301.01 and ED 1304.02 regarding regional CTE agreements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright. Who got it?
Letter H is to adopt ED 315, the home education rules. It was on the consent agenda at JOCAR, their August meeting with no changes. I made one editorial change actually, which is in the summary that I provided. I don't know if anyone has any questions on that one.
I move that the State Board of Education adopt ED 315.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
The next ones are for the 600 rules. I put the conditional approvals at the bottom, we'll see if I get them back in time, but, we've got ED 60205, which is the PEP fees for review.
These are the ones we have talked about these before. I have
Yeah, we're trying to realign
about.
with the workload
Yeah.
and time involved, so, and that's actually, we're directed to that statute, to align our fees to.
I move that the State Board of Education adopt ED 602.05.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do you wanna just do JK and L as a slate, unless anybody has changes or objections to the?
Well, with the last two, I haven't received the responses back from OLS yet. I do have someone reviewing them right now, so it may be a case where I have to, if you guys are
Let's-
still meeting, then I can.
Yeah, let's do J then.
J is ED 603, 606.
I move that the State Board of Education adopt ED 603 through ED 606.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll hold off, see if they get back to us today. Okay?
And if not, we have 30 days, so I can bring them forward at the October meeting. It will be within that 30 days. So it'll be okay.
Can I just, regarding this question on this? Should there be, maybe I'm not looking in the right place, should there be sort of the for UNH, the one with there is, listen, I guess I'm, maybe after I'll just come over.
It is, I'd be happy to put
Thank
it.
you, thank you.
Make sure you're looking at the one that just says UNH and not UNH College of Professional Studies.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So timing is pushed us back to the point that the commissioner has to hold. So we're gonna do, deputy commissioner gets to do commissioner's update.
All right, isn't that
I am sorry.
Yeah.
And you want to
All right. I'm gonna try to make this quick as possible. It's taking a very long time. First of all, let's start with the waiver video for our rekindling curiosity camps. This was put together just to show, and everyone's familiar with the rekindling camps. It was something that we offered to students and families where kids would go to camp and really get their toes in the grass and to enjoy, and there was a social emotional learning component offered to it. So, are we able to get that video? I'm gonna see if I can do it. Let's see. And while, I'll just wait. The volume's gonna work. Oh, you know why? Hold on. I'm muted here. No. Sorry, I wish there'd be volume. I don't like. I can share the link with everybody at some point.
Sure.
How's that sound?
That's good.
Nope, it's not gonna work. All right,
You
and
can put that link right into Canvas.
Yeah,
that's right.
there you go.
That's a great idea. Put it right into
Okay,
Canvas so you can all see, because, so, that would be
Sorry.
great. Also, I think Rachel will appreciate this, the holiday cards for the military are, we're gonna be doing that again. Our goal is to have 1 million cards this year. We've been very, very successful in making sure that we get as many cards to the military, and we like that as well, and we work with lots of partner agencies to make sure that everyone knows how to send it and how to do it.
1 million cards?
That's what he has.
That's wild.
That's wild, but I think that we, have done.
There are 1.3 million people in New Hampshire.
This is.
That's a lot of cards per kid right there.
It is, but I think, he's reached out to all his counterparts
That's
with
great.
it through the, all the states, and yeah, so we're hoping that we'll
That
get
is
that kind
a
of
lot, that's
participation.
amazing, yeah.
It's a national program.
And then tomorrow, we're gonna be going up to Mount Washington, the commissioner and I, for the Teacher of the Year program, with Christian Cheatham and some of his students, and going to the weather station. They offer, I mean, I think it's like a one-of-a-kind, professional development for educators, and for students if they want to take advantage of this. So we're gonna take some kids up there, check it out in Mount Washington, I'm gonna be dressing nice and warm for that.
Camping out,
Pack
camping
I'm
out.
not camping out. I'm
for
not
that, it's definitely cold already.
Yes, yes, I make sure that
They're
they're
quick before the hurt.
And, that's what we have on.
Okay. Alright, so we have to remove the meeting minutes from July from the table because we did not have a quorum when we came up. I need a motion to take this off.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, meeting minutes. I didn't find anything in these minutes. I usually, whoever was transcribing them this time did a good job.
We talk about both of them, or is it just July?
Yeah, you wanna just do both of them?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I.
Okay, let's do them one at a time because we did, yeah.
So
Okay,
I'm
so-
abstaining because I don't think I was here in July.
Yeah, so, let's do meeting minutes for July. I need a motion. Anybody who's here in July?
I was here in July. I'm pretty sure I
It
was.
was
in
2 months
July.
ago.
I missed all- I missed all-
You make the motion, I'll
August.
second it. How about that? Yeah,
I was here.
okay. All in favor?
Second, you second?
Yeah,
No, he seconded.
Oh,
Jim seconded.
Who is
Aye.
who made the motion?
Rich.
Oh, you did?
And then I seconded.
Yeah, I was pot committed.
You were there.
I wasn't there.
You were
Yeah,
with me
so you two have to not vote. Phil, were you in July?
2 months ago.
Members
Yes.
present.
So, yes.
Kate Cassidy,
Okay,
Jim,
so
Phil.
the four of us are voting yes. Who were there?
And Ann abstaining.
Yeah, I think you had to leave early, that was what, was it you or Jim had to leave early then?
I left
You had to leave-
early to give it, yes.
You had to leave early
I
then?
came back.
That was
I
your
came back,
last,
I did
no,
that.
Richard, you
that
were
was
leaving
August,
early,
that
and
was
when we
July.
lost
Oh,
you,
okay.
we,
Yeah, we lost a quorum when somebody, anyways, okay.
Wasn't sure.
Meeting meeting minutes for August,
I was not here for that.
you were not,
Yeah, no,
I was here for that.
My-
I stepped away early though, I don't know if I should.
you were here for most of it.
Yeah, I think
You were here, officially, yeah. I'll make the motion for meeting minutes of August, how's that? I need a second.
I just need to say
Second.
that,
Second from Phil.
second, while my captured my sentiments, I'm not sure if the words quite,
Yeah, do you wanna make it?
no, it's not important enough.
what section?
I don't know.
Okay, all in favor for August minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Alright,
Nice.
Rich had to abstain. Okay, that is it, unless anybody has more discussion.
We do have to go non-public, public for
Right. I have none
For
public.
Caitlin.
Okay, so no discussion, we're gonna have to vote to go into non-public session, so I'll need a motion, a second, and a roll call.